You believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really Iron Man, Mr. Stark?
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. And Hive. You can also find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? Co-hosting from the Borough of Kings.
Where you from?
Brooklyn going out to all.
Here we go. You can find this here podcast on the Kliqsoftheweek podcast network, the CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Other Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Of course that wasn't
Make
good.
sure to click like, subscribe, and give us all the 5-star reviews.
Chia. You could also find what's up. Oh, nice. I did not know that. Oh, I can say that in a second though. You can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. On the youtube.com/the Kliq Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit the notification button so that you know when we are on.
Yeah, and shout out to folks that are joining us live, like Benji Games 2, who apparently is a couple hours away. That's what's up. So which means you either in North Carolina, Georgia, or you're in yep, that's what I thought. You're just south of Charlotte, so you're like a Rock Hill-ish area. That's what I figured. So thanks for being here as always, Benji. Appreciate you.
Thanks for joining us.
Shout out to local folk also, always. It's like 2 hours
That's
away
local to one of us at least.
Yeah, because 2 hours from Columbia is basically out of the state and in 3 different directions. So, so that can only be. But at any rate, we are.
I was about to say, technically, I'm 2 hours away from Columbia University, but that's another story.
Yeah, that's a whole different. That's a whole different thing.
Anyway, moving on, folks.
Yes, and the only people
Like
who
2
know
hours only by subway, like not even 2 hours by subway. That's a long, that's exaggerating things. But anyway, moving on.
Right, I was about to say, yeah, and the USC for you is probably University of Southern California, because that's where anyone that's not in this state only knows. Right. So that's always been a funny thing. I think I saw Sanford Green, who's local, also at a con. We talked about that. It was pretty funny. Anywho's, we are going to start off. We don't have any Marvel shows or Star Trek shows, Star Wars shows. There are Star Trek shows, but we're not,
Yeah, there's nothing in the media right now that we're following unless, like we're not keeping up with like the new Willow show.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever watched the first Willow?
The movie, yeah, way back when it first came out. Yes, I did watch the movie. And it is on Disney Plus.
I never watched it until recently.
Right.
Because I had seen that they were doing sequel shows. I was like, you know what, let me watch this. I'm like, all right.
I thought about actually watching the movie again because I was like, how does this hold up in relation to what they're doing with this show? So I might actually do that. And look at that. We ended up talking pop culture stuff either way, even though we said we weren't going to.
Exactly. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it was just, it was just kind of off the dome, like, what's out there, right? Is we've hit this, and it's going to come up in the news. We've hit this, I guess the best way to put it is a lull between Marvel releases and between, a lot of the pop culture stuff and genre stuff that we're used to covering and talking about here on the show. So, we're about to be neck deep in the holidays. Wait, we never talked about, did we talk last week about the Guardians special?
We talked about it a little bit, saying you said that you watched it. And actually I did end up watching it. Okay. But yeah, last week you mentioned it because you had watched it and I had not at the time. Right.
But, do you have any thoughts on it?
I mean, it was cute. I'm
presuming you watched it.
I did watch it. Yeah. I did watch it. And so yeah, I liked it. It was interesting. They took a liberty that I wasn't expecting. Or that I don't remember, I guess I should say. Well, I still don't want to, I mean, granted, it's probably been out long enough to where you could, but I'm like, it's like, yeah, they took some liberty, but they definitely tried to get the feel of old, like holiday specials of the, like in the 80s, the 70s and 80s. So
70s and 80s, even the 60s.
Yeah. So I do appreciate that. I was kind of expecting something to happen, but it didn't, but I guess, I guess it makes sense one way or the other as to they'll when they get into Guardians 3, they will.
Right, we'll talk about that.
Yes, indeed.
Because a certain trailer dropped today as the result of a Comic-Con that has become very popular with dropping, like major trailers and tidbits. That's actually, a trend now. That Brazil Con is like, it seems to be like a very big convention for things like this to get dropped.
Right. So so real quick, one, I have a question for Benji in the chat, and two, to answer your question, they ask Blade drop a teaser trailer. No, we haven't seen anything on a teaser trailer being dropped yet. In fact, I think
because they haven't even started shooting it because they just got new directors.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So they're still currently working on it. So nothing on that is that's still kind of up in the air at this point.
Right.
And I was gonna ask Benji, since you are where you are, have you gone to Heroes Con any? Because there's probably a good chance that I've actually seen you there and don't even know it. But while you answered that, we can just kind of get on with the get on. I
was gonna add very quickly, non-spoilery. I thought of some of your criticisms of the characterization of Mantis.
Yes.
Up until now. And it was very nice that Mantis basically took center stage along with Drax in this holiday special. And it was, if you were not familiar with the comic book version of the character, you would think that some of the skills that she puts on display in the special are a little bit out of left field and seem unnatural. But if you are familiar with the character at all, she's one of the baddest MFers out there when it comes to the martial arts. And when she's basically, taking down people with non-lethal moves expertly, quickly, then, I smiled at that. I was like, oh, people who were very critical of Mantis's portrayal in Guardians 2 and Infinity War and Endgame should be a little happy now.
Having you saying that, I'm still slightly critical about it. That was definitely,
because it's different,
right. Yeah, like yes, that was good, but they still kind of have her they actually kind of made her a little more shrill.
Well, what I was gonna say is she's goofy, but she's going to be the one that takes Drax to task. And let me say, it's nice to see her, front and center. Palm Clementiev is incredibly beautiful.
Yeah. Yes.
So, that's something that it's a shame that they're hiding it under makeup, but that's what happens to actors of color.
Well, yeah, more times than not. I like the actress, and I like their starting to make her a little bit more badass. But it's like, man, classic version of Mantis. Even in the the Abnett Landing reboot, of the Guardians, she was still pretty badass. So with after or during Annihilation and all that, so it was like, man, they could put a little bit more. They don't have to make everything.
There's so much. Yeah, there's so much that they had to cram into that movie. It's like they never touched on Drax. Like the real OG origin.
Yeah, they weren't going to do that.
Yeah. So I completely understood, and we'll talk more about Guardians 3. But in any event, we'll move on from the holiday special. And just say that I recommend watching it. I think it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It definitely fits the season, and it has light notes. I don't know if it's as laugh out loud funny as people think it might be, because the last time I really laughed out loud at a Guardians movie was the first movie. The first movie had me rolling.
Right, because the second one is pretty much them doing that over again, and I'm not.
And dealing with daddy issues,
that also, yeah. And yeah, speaking of that, that was that whole thing right there, which I won't get into. Is like, that's like, when did they I remember it too enough to be like, okay, I know that was a thing, but I don't remember that one part being, connected.
Well, I think they just confirmed it, because at the end of the day, I think it was it was implied.
Right.
That's the way I read it. That's what I read into it when I watched. I was like, oh, I'm not going to go back and watch Guardians 2 just to confirm that, but I think it's heavily implied. And so they just basically said it out loud and made it explicit as opposed to implicit.
Yeah, I suppose. Like I said, I just don't remember the implicit stuff. So, but that's neither here nor there at this point. And yeah, you're right. I'm kind of probably before 3 comes out, I might revisit all of them for giggles, but who knows.
Sure.
At any rate, one last thing I was to talk about. Benji answers and says that they have not, but will be going to the next one with their buddy. Says it's a good time. Yes, Heroes Con is a good time. I haven't been in a couple of years, but I hope to go back soon. Ish. Yeah,
I mean, with the pandemic, it's it's been difficult. I mean, and we've talked about, I don't know if anyone in the audience has been listening or watching when I talk about New York Comic Con. Cons are still very much a work in progress. We are not yet at pre-pandemic activity levels at the cons, but we're getting a lot closer. So hopefully next year, things will be not quite completely normal, but close to it.
Right. At least better than it has been.
Right.
That being said, though, we're going to get into some books, folks. Gorgeous, gorgeous books. And we are going to start off with... Oh, this thing is going to mess with me real quick. We're going to start off with, as I try to change some things in OBS lovingly, Star Trek #2.
Star Trek #2 is published by IDW. It's written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, former guests of the Comic Book Chronicles, with art by Oleg Chudakov. Colors are by Lee Luffridge, and letters are by Clayton Cowles, freelancing this time. So this is the follow-up to a very good first issue in which the writers, Kelly, found a way to meld pretty much all of the generations of Star Trek into one crew, conveniently using a particular point in time when all of these characters would still be active in and around Starfleet. And the story centers upon Captain Benjamin Sisko and one of the weirder subplots and stories from Deep Space Nine, and centers around how that show ended. And by bringing the character back, really delves into some of that stuff and into some of the more, if this is my point of view as not the biggest Star Trek person, and Roddykat's going to expound upon this, this is some of the more esoteric Star Trek concepts. So I will let Roddykat go from here. With that, I will just add that they do tie it into something that was heretofore unknown to me. That there is like a super secret group of Klingon scientists somewhere in deep space doing some funky stuff.
So
I'm sure that was a new thing. If it's not, it's new. It's new to me.
It's actually
so I'll let
not.
Roddykat take it from here.
It's actually not. It's an old TNG episode actually. Matter of fact, later season, like season 6, around about that. Yeah. So as I say in my notes, apparently Cobra was not the only ones that were dealing in cloning, and I had totally forgot about this because I had to kind of go back and do some research, or not research, but I had to go look up a certain character. I was like, I remember that being a thing, but I thought that character was no longer around anymore. But it was like, no, apparently they're still around. So yeah, so the crux of this issue is Sisko and crew end up going into Klingon territory. And of course, when you think about notable Klingons of the Star Trek universe, you know there's one TNG / Deep Space Nine, one of familiar note that will always come up. And of course, they do. And there's some nice touching moments, or kind of sort of touching moments between Sisko and a couple of members of the crew, including I'll just go ahead and say it, Worf, because you know who, if you know your Star Trek, you know Worf. If you know TNG is TNG and or Deep Space Nine anyway. So, but they go into Klingon territory to get some information and a favor, to which, of course, in true Star Trek Star Trek fashion, things don't go the way they wanted to, but they still do it anyway. So which ends in almost causing incidents in space and on the away team that kind of go a certain way. Again, in true Star Trek fashion, I do like that Kelly and Lansing. I feel like they kind of had their pulse on the tone of a lot of these characters in this book. Like I feel like they probably, if you know, not to quiz them on it, but I'm sure they are amongst folks that have watched a good bit of Star Trek. It's particularly probably like TNG era because of some of the stuff that they're talking about in this book is from that. So, or at least that is coming up is coming right up with, not to give too much of the plot away, because it's like, yeah, Sisko's back because of basically some god-killing thing growing around, and they're trying to hunt it down, and he's got a crew mixed up of different eras of Star Trek folk.
Right, that's what I said.
Right.
And when I meant what I really wanted to emphasize with the esoteric part of the story. Because dealing with things like so the Star Trek people will understand when you say something like crystalline entity,
right? Well, I didn't want to just
that
go
rings
into
a bell with them,
right. I didn't want to just go into like just the whole minutia of things that have happened. I think we probably did talk about that.
I'll throw you in with them and refer to the Star Trek people as y'all.
But yeah,
and just say that I appreciate that this is filled with lots of fun character moments, as you said. It seems like Lansing and Kelly have a really good grasp of the characters, and I agree with that point.
Yeah, because you can almost hear their voice, or maybe that's just probably the Star Trek person in me, just hear their voice, coming out of what they're saying in here. So that's always a good thing when you're in a medium such as this, especially with characters that are licensed. If you're able to hear their voices, then yeah, that's a pretty good thing. But yeah, I'm continuing to enjoy this book. Obviously the Star Trek nerd in me just well, probably less of a nerd, but there are people way more into Star Trek than I am, even though I've watched a good bit of it. But I can safely say I have my moments, and I've been enjoying this, and I hopefully it stays like this, you know, because this is supposed to be new ongoing, and I know this is the first arc, and don't know how long this arc is going to be, and where they're going to go after that. But you know, I'm enjoying the ride so far, basically.
Did the art team change? Did the artist change between issues 1 and 2?
But I would have to go back and look, but I don't believe so.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just asking.
Was there something noticeable, or you?
I mean, I didn't go back to the
Right,
first issue. That's the thing. So I thought maybe you knew
No.
offhand whether or not like that issue's first art, the first issue's artist maybe like is alternating with somebody.
No, because I believe, and if I'm not mistaken, it's been coming out monthly, so it's not. I don't unless there was some reason why that would happen, then.
Just to make sure that it's divided up. That's all. Just so that it hits the deadlines and gets released on time.
I know, but I mean, if it's normally on a monthly book, you don't. I don't know if you would have that.
You don't release it until you get a couple in the
Right.
can. Yeah.
So actually, I'm going back and checking. Doesn't look like. Oh, okay. Pardon me, folks, because now you got me kind of curious.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
I'm just like, I wasn't gonna look back, so I'm sorry, folks.
No, it was fine because. Oh yeah, apparently it is. It was Ramon Rosales on the first book, and it's Oleg Chutikov on this book.
All right,
On
so
this
we'll
issue.
see how the art is handled going forward. I just remember the first issue being a little sharper
Mhm.
in the detail and the likenesses, so I was a little bit taken aback by the smoother, like the less precise likenesses and the less precise art that seemed to be in this book. So, and I'm familiar with Ramon Rosales' work, from his Marvel and probably his DC stuff too, I think. So, ultimately it'll be interesting to see how the series decides to move forward with its art team. But obviously Kelly and Lansing are the writers, at least on this book.
Right. So
All right.
next up.
Anything else before we move on?
No, it's good. If you like Star Trek and you have watched enough later Trek, I think you will enjoy this. Or if you've watched enough Trek in general, I think you will enjoy this book.
All righty. So, President Bartlett.
What's next?
So, how about we hit the 2 Strange books this week? Because I think that is where the most of our remaining books in common are.
All right. So Strange number 8.
Sure. So Strange number 8 is written by Jed McKay, art by Stefano Landini. There is a bit of a time shift because there is a major flashback portion of the story. So the present day pencils are drawn by Marcelo Ferreira, and the present day inks are by Roberto Poggi. Colors are by Hava Tartaglia, and letters are by VC's Corey Petit. So yeah, this is the big kind of retcon to explain who the Blasphemy Cartel is and are, who the members are. And I really appreciated that this was very well told, and really helped this retcon land on 2 feet and put this group of, like kind of semi-known characters like Wand, like this division of S.H.I.E.L.D., into focus and putting them into a proper setting that puts them right, in the midst of, but unknown to us, unbeknownst to us, they were like affected by, like Secret Empire events. That's really one of the big ones.
Right. Yeah, I enjoyed this issue. They really did, because there was the one thing we did not know, and now we do because of this issue, was that whole thing that Agent 70 just mentioned. And sometimes when you try to kind of I don't want to say shoehorn events, but we kind of try to place events within other events and just to introduce new things. Sometimes it doesn't go quite well. Like this one makes about as much sense as it was going to, but and it fit just about as well as it was going to at that. So I was like, okay, I'm all right with this. I'm fine with this, you know. So because it was I don't know, there was part of me that kind of was like, okay, there could have been a bit of MCU vacation going on here in a kind of a sense, but not really, because I mean obviously there haven't been in magic stuff is kind of more recent in the MCU. You know, even though the Doctor Strange movie, you know, was as long as it was, but the focus on it has been a little bit more recent than that. So, and that was long since S.H.I.E.L.D. fell in the MCU. So, you know, something like that would fit there and or here, you know, because of Secret Empire, Secret Invasion, excuse me. So yeah, I got kind of tickled because there was an explanation at the beginning of the book about a certain thing that made me think about the Golden Child. I don't know if you caught that or not.
Oh, about the spinning things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want the knife. Please.
So I was like, wait, they're explaining that there's like, and then it just immediately took me back to that scene. So I was like, okay, even though there was no reference to that in here, which, you know, would have been slightly out of place, but still, the explanation of that and going into why crypto and the blockchain are bad.
Yeah.
Just as silly as that sounds, just kind of makes so much sense when you know.
And what it is that it's unfortunately very you know, like coincidentally timed with some major happenings in the cryptocurrency world.
Right.
I will also add that retroactive continuity, when done well, just makes you nod and say, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that's what that was my experience here.
Yeah, same.
You know, we've had our ups and downs with retroactive continuity as, you know, we've been doing this show long enough. We've been reading comics, you know, for most of our lives now. And we've seen things come and go and, you know, stories get shoehorned in to make things fit. So when it's done well, you can't help but just admire it and applaud it and say, all right, I get it. You know, and there are little touches here that this is, you know, the Bravo Charlie group. I like that. I was like, oh, okay.
Right. And then, you know, folding that into what they end up becoming. It's like, all right, way to go, Jed. you done did it again.
Exactly.
Also,
like, good job. I get it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That was pretty fun. Also, there is a certain. Actually, and this is the other part where I mentioned the MCU vacation, even though this is also something from the comics. There is a certain spell from a certain Spider-Man movie that was also originally from a certain Spider-Man comic arc that some would argue is groan-inducing. I know some people some folks don't care for that particular arc, but there was a particular spell that is also talked about here, that is involved in all of that. I'm like, okay, sure. You know what? I'm good with that here. That works out. That makes sense.
Gotcha.
It makes a whole lot of sense. And like Agent 70 saying with the retroactive
continuity.
Exactly. So it's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Old-fashioned retcon, folks.
Yeah, pretty much. But basically, as I called it in my notes, one is the particular click of the week for me. Two is also the basically the info dump issue.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we are 8 issues in, and while not every issue has dealt with the blasphemy cartel, they've proved to be a consistent background character and nemesis for Clea Strange, in her new role as Sorcerer Supreme of the Earth dimension, of this dimension. And ultimately, if they were going to take up an entire issue to do it, I think they did it well this, using this one issue, because it wasn't strung out. It wasn't, a little bit here, a little bit there. It's like, all right, here you go. Boom. Here's the whole thing. We can go jump right into the action right after. Because now we understand why they are so capable and so organized.
Right.
Literally.
Right. Now, the only thing some would possibly argue against, like, after coming out of that last issue, we got a reunion that doesn't get too far addressed here, but I mean they did some legwork coming out of that last issue, so it's irrelevant. But they're going to end up coming back to, because the revelation and the reunion of a couple of characters. It's coming out of this is going to have to be addressed some kind of way, because of especially what they set up with the last issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a potential click of the week for me as well, if I didn't mention that already.
Right. Cool. But then I guess if that's it, we can go on to the next one, which is
yes. Moving on to the other Strange book. No pun intended.
Although it is, but
right, that's what it is. It's what it is. So Strange Academy Finals #2 is written by Scotty Young with art by Humberto Ramos. Colors are by Edgar Delgado and letters are by VC's Clayton Cowles. I will let Roddykat take the primary commentary on this book, but I will say that it took me just a couple of seconds to remember what happened at the end of the previous issue, because it's kind of like an abrupt shift. It's like, all right, it's we're getting the band back together, and it's kind of that type of opening part of the story opens like that.
Right. So just like you, Agent 70, I also was like, wait, this is kind of abrupt, and I actually went back to the last issue and was like, wait, I don't remember it just being this clean coming out of what happened after that, and it wasn't. So I was like, you're right, it is kind of an abrupt shift. But yeah, so basically the students of Strange Academy were divided because of a situation that that initially gets readdressed in this issue, I guess, in a way, but still there's some more to it that they have to kind of hash out, because even coming out of that last issue, it was like, well, there was a couple of proclamations. There was a proclamation said near the end of the book that you would think they're going to address more immediately than what started this whole thing,
right?
Or what supposedly started this whole thing. But no. So that being said, because of the students being divided, some left off with Emily and some stayed with Doyle at school, but now some of those students who wanted to go back to the school, including Zoe Laveau, are back at the school now after being basically ousted from the Dark Dimension through a increasingly more aggroed Emily last issue. So this is them basically getting back to the school, and after a nice little touching reunion, they end up having to clean up the place because they've wrecked it. So, and that's basically the crux of this issue, is them kind of cleaning up, and then, well, that's half of the issue, and then, like I said, the other half is kind of going back into the initial cause, or finding the initial cause.
Oh, we got another one. Yay.
Okay. I didn't think that can even come out this week. I thought that was last week. But anyway, doesn't matter. We'll get to it. But yeah, like I said, starts off with them kind of cleaning up, and then it's like, well, the initial reason why this whole schism got started was because of one student who got kicked out, and that student is basically out there slinging wish dope for some dude, or was until he messed up. So the everybody who is back at the school now went after him in this issue.
Right. I honestly like the creativity that Scotty Young had in naming this particular villain by calling him Gaslamp.
Right, which I believe is from
well, what I was going to say is, at the end of the day, what it, it's at least, it harkens back to, the original meaning of gas lighting.
That also, right. Mm-hmm.
Which has become such a prevalent term in recent history. So,
right.
It was always kind of prevalent, but, it was always kind of, let's just say it's become more mainstream. It's always been available and around.
Right. But I want to say that the character is also from some lore from that era, or from that area. And I think that might, so I don't know if you've ever seen Princess and the Frog. The Disney
I have
movie.
not. Yeah, it's well after that's well after I stopped watching any Disney. Like if it wasn't like one of the Pixar movies that I was following,
right,
watching any of the Disney releases.
Right. So basically, I think it's a kind of an amped up version of the character of a similar character from that movie, which is also based off of some lore from like that area, if I'm not mistaken.
From New Orleans.
Yes.
Yep.
Who was played by Keith David, by the way. But I'd have to, because I remember, I feel like I remember reading something about that with this, so I may be slightly off, but there was something similar to it. But regardless, we don't have to go too far into that, because the kids basically go after this dude and go after their missing friend, and interestingly planned out, for some kids. Like they kind of had some things figured out up until, what happens at the end, which some would say is a nice big cliffhanger. Even though like this is only the second issue, but still, it ended with a.
Oh, you got to get people coming back for
Indeed.
more, man.
Indeed. So, which, I can safely say for us, wouldn't have been that big of a problem.
Right. We've been keeping up with Strange Academy since Jump. So, it's interesting to see back for another year, quote unquote, a school year of stories, or if they end it here with the finals series.
Right. Which we haven't seen any word of that, and we probably won't up until,
Yeah, close to the end, probably.
Exactly. So I would love to see more Strange Academy. Not to, but if this is all what Scotty Young and crew plans to do, then we'll take what we can get. But we still got this right now, so we're gonna enjoy it for what it is. And with that, we can go on to another book.
The only other book that we have in common is Captain America: Symbol of Truth, number 7.
Sure.
So that is the last book that we have in common, and after that we will be going into rapid fire, covering the books that we have each read. So Captain America: Symbol of Truth number 7 is written by Tochi Onyebuchi, with art by Ig Guara, colors by Jesus Bertov. Again, this is one of those books that has the color artist listed after the letterer. Don't know why. Colors are by Jesus Bertov, and letters are by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So, coming off of the events of the previous issue, which had a very, let's say, I don't want to reuse the word esoteric, but let's just say a rarely used country in the Marvel universe basically reappeared because of its proximity to Wakanda and became a part of the story. And ultimately, Onyebuchi wove some events that that are relatively, you know, some current style events into this story, and you know, we're following two parallel story paths, one with the Falcon and one, of course, with Captain America, Steve Rogers. Not Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson. But what I was thinking of is that the character that is reintroduced in this issue as a potential partner / sidekick to Sam Wilson is connected to Steve Rogers.
Yes.
And we have not seen this character in a long time. And I'll hand it off to Roddykat from here.
So I thank this book for reminding folks of this character, because while I remember part of what happened to this character, I don't remember what happened to him at the end of it. And luckily there was a footnote to something I actually did read, but I don't remember this character being involved with that. So,
I don't remember half of that.
right.
Because I remember the character, you know, what happened after because this character, and this is a big hint, you know, this is a character that was introduced during the Remender run with the whole Dimension Z stuff, the Dimension Zola stuff. And so ultimately, I've blocked a lot of that stuff out in my memory. And I don't remember, you know, I kind of remember this whole thing because the character did apparently interact with, you know, later on with some other characters. I'm like, I don't remember that,
Right.
but okay.
Same. So it was like, yeah, and that one footnote, I was like, wait, I vaguely even remember that miniseries, much less what happened then. So it was like, okay, so something happened to this character there. Okay, if you say so. But
Yeah.
but hey, good on Tochi Onabuchi for pulling it out. It's not necessarily a deep cut, but it might as well be.
Right. You know, like if you're not like a loyal Captain America reader, and I would consider myself a semi-loyal Captain America reader, especially of more recent vintage. You know, like I've read a lot of the Grunwald stuff, but not all of it. And, you know, going back before that to like the early, you know, the late, let's say the later Kirby stuff and the Byrne stuff, I'm not that familiar with. But the, you know, like, you know, everything from Brubaker forward, I'm more familiar with. I was mostly collecting that stuff, you know, like kind of month to month. But the Remender stuff, I'd kind of blocked out, I'll be honest. So, you know, having this character, you know, show face again is kind of like, well, I wonder what what Onyebuchi decides to do with this.
Right. So yeah, we get the introduction of a new character in here. For how long that character is going to be here, we don't know. We get a hint that apparently Bucky's been keeping more secrets than Steve and Sam knew about, which I'm assuming they're going to touch back on that when they get to this whole event thing, because I'm not sure why they would even bring that up now. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't, I mean, as far as where this story is going, this probably would be the reason why, and it may not come up there. But nevertheless, we have Sam and the new Nomad, the latest iteration of Nomad, let's just say, on mission. Which, here was the part of this story that kind of slightly bugged me a little bit. In the beginning of the story, Sam kind of makes this big proclamation like, hey, I'm Captain America, some things happen, I'm gonna make sure it gets dealt with. And I'm sitting here like, as soon as you said your name was Captain America, you should have backed off of what you said. But then again, we know that Captain America is no stranger to mixing in international affairs, but I'm sitting here like, as soon as you said that, the way you said that, like, you should have been like, oh wait, I'm Captain America, not Captain International or whatever the case may be. So that part was like, okay, did you not hear yourself at any time you said this whole thing you just said? But you got to further the story, so you kind of got to let that go. But it was just funny. It was just funny to me too when he said that. So yeah, they go on mission and kind of have some sort of success with it, or at least they're in the midst of. But then we cut to the Falcon, Joaquin I can't remember his last name, back at the hospital where he's recuperating, and apparently
you wanted to say Phoenix, but anyway.
I yes, I did actually. I was going to say it. I did. I very much did. But I think it's not Torres, is it? I think it's Torres. But regardless,
you go on.
Yeah, the new Falcon's kind of laid up in the hospital because he got hurt last issue. But apparently, and this is another part of a thing that I totally forgot about, because so the new Falcon got his part of his powers.
Torres.
It is Torres. Okay, I figured. Got his powers partially from Red Wing, Sam's bird, who had been turned into basically turned into a vampire or something. I don't remember. That whole thing's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And apparently a part of that has come out at the end of this issue.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here like, really? Like, why?
I groaned. I'm sorry, I groaned.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I don't know what this has to do with the rest of what's going on here, but I'm like, I guess you got to do something with that character, but why bring that back up?
I groaned.
And I don't even think Red Wing is still afflicted with whatever that was. I don't even know, but it's like, okay, sure, here we are.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was about to say maybe that was worth it. I don't know. But that is Captain America's Simple Truth. I assume that last part is going to go somewhere, maybe even fold into the bigger story with Sam, and maybe this whole event that's coming up. I doubt that kind of seriously, but with whatever's going on, I'm hoping it comes up for the writer's sake. I'm hoping it comes up to something good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, at the point where it intersect, they'll, you know, eventually part ways and continue, you know, on their own merry way. And this Falcon, you know, plot line is going to, you know, kind of linger, you know, the whole, you know, seeming hungry / vampire. Yeah, I was like, oh, really?
Which
you know,
is funny. Yeah, not the first vampiric thing I read this week, but
right. So, you know, it wasn't for myself. It was the second one, but at the end of the day, you know, we'll see where it goes. It'll just be a subplot that decides to, you know, kind of linger in the background, I think, during this whole Cold War thing. And then once the Cold War stuff ends and the Berlin Wall falls, then you'll get more the whole Joaquin may or may not be a vampiric Falcon.
Right. Which I know Marvel has been doing some things with vampires here and there in a few different books. So I don't know if they're starting to like groom another event. Or this is like, no, we just got this in the background and we're just going to kind of keep this lingering because, hey, they're here, you know? Because we've seen it in Moon Knight, we've seen it here, kind of sort of seen it in Spidey, but that doesn't, I can't say I count that much. But and another book that I'm talking about this week, vampires kind of come up, so it's like I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm sure we'll figure out something will happen sometime soon. And with that, I think we're done with Sam Cap, and we can go on to rapid fire.
Yeah, I think so. So let me spin the minigun up.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, we are in rapid fire mode now, folks. First up for me is Nightwing 2022 Annual Number 1. This is published, of course, by DC. It's written by Tom Taylor with art by Eduardo Pansica, with inks by Julio Ferreira, and colors by Adriano Lucas. And I neglected to put down who the letterer is. And while I talk about this, I'm going to take a look at who the letterer is. Oh, it's Wes Abbott. Wes Abbott is the letterer. So I'm referring specifically to the main story. There are two backup stories in this book, but the main story is going to be the reason why, if you've been keeping up with Nightwing at all, you want to read this issue of night. You want to read this annual, and I feel that they've done, publishers, the big two publishers at least, because those are the only publishers that still put out annuals on an irregular basis, let's say. And I've always struggled with the value, the cost, the cost benefit analysis of buying an annual. Sometimes there is a self-contained crossover in them, looking at you, Evolutionary War and Atlantis Attacks. But sometimes there are really substantive things that happen in the annual that tie into the regular run of the book. And it becomes more likely when the book's main writer also is helming the story being told, the main story being told in the annual. That's the case here. So what we get in the first main story of this annual is basically the origin of the new Heartless character. So if you are interested in the origin of Heartless and how it is kind of a parallel to both Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne's origin, you may want to take a look at this book. So I enjoyed it. It was good. The two backup stories are fun. One of them is about Haley, the Batwing dog, Dick Grayson's dog, basically having a daydream. And the other one is about Nightwing putting Jonathan Kent, the current Superman, who may not be Superman for much longer, through some training paces. Next up is The Streets of Philadelphia, number 25. This book is published by Image. It's written by Rodney Barnes with layouts and inks by Jason Sean Alexander. Pencils, like the finishing pencils, are by Herman Aramuspe, that is. Aramuspe. And colors are by Lee Luffridge. Letters are by Marshall Dillon. So we have officially hit what seems to be the home stretch for Philadelphia. The writer and artist, actually, basically both tease that the next 5 issues are going to be pretty big in the Philadelphia story, basically getting the series through to issue number 30. There's a very big possible loss of a character in this issue, and it seems that all of the factions that have been carefully established over the course of the first 25 issues have all come together in the last several issues, and now the big brouhaha, let's call it the MCU third act battle, is starting, with some characters in this issue kind of working in the background to see if something couldn't be worked out, to keep things, if not status quo, at least to prevent any sort of loss of status or power as the result of this big battle between the forces of quote unquote darkness. And in a world of Philadelphia that has werewolves, vampires, and everything in between, there's a lot of gray. So you're kind of stuck trying to figure out who would be the protagonists, who are the antagonists, and who are just literally just a bunch of anti-heroes. So it's, there are no clear lines of demarcation. You cannot exactly delineate who you should be rooting for, and that's a lot of fun.
Gotcha. Question.
Shoot.
I thought I heard something about, so you're saying this could be the end of the book itself, or just this arc? Because I thought I saw rumblings of, yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I thought I saw rumblings of,
because I said they're mapping it out for the next 5 issues, taking it to issue 30.
Okay, right. Because because I was like, so I know I thought I saw something maybe between Rodney Barnes or somebody else that was talking about some, a new arc coming or something. So that's good,
right?
Because I know you've been enjoying.
Right, this is the first issue. Right, this is the first issue in what might be.
Right.
This is just my pure conjecture. I'm guessing here,
gotcha.
But that's what it seems to be. Although, depending on whether or not they want to keep telling stories, they could very well keep going on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Alrighty, next up is Avengers Assemble Alpha #1. This is something that Roddykat was reading, did not finish, so he will not appreciate it if I decide to spoil this too much, so I'm not going to. It's written by Jason Aaron with pencils by Brian Hitch, inks by Andre Curry, colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. I will say that this is the first big slobber knocker that Aaron puts into the story that has been, been built up to by both the Avengers main title and the Avengers Forever sister title. And if you are not caught up, I would not recommend reading this without being caught up, but I think that you could conceivably just say, all right, this group is one group, this group is another. We figure out where they all sort of come from. It's not necessary to get all of the nitty-gritty backstory. So that's, Roddykat asked me that before we started, and that would be my answer. It's like, it's not, I would recommend it, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
Right, because like we was talking about, and I think you just mentioned that about this is coming off of the whole what's going on in the Avengers book, plus what's going on more specifically in the Avengers Forever book, which I think just wrapped up. So,
right. Well, it's the next issue of Avengers Forever is the next part of this three-part cross.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. So basically, issue number 11 of Avengers Forever was the penultimate issue of that book, and I think it's going all the way to issue number 12 in that story.
Okay, I do like this J. Scott Campbell cover that I have up for folks watching the video version. It's
a remix of Avengers number 4.
Mm-hmm. So, good stuff.
Alrighty, next up is Planet Hulk, World Breaker #1 of 5. This is written by the original Planet Hulk scribe for Marvel. That is Greg Pak. Pencils are by Manuel Garcia. Inks are by Cam Smith. Colors are by Chris Sotomayor. And letters are by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. I would invite Roddykat to read this, but he's also unfamiliar with all of the Planet Hulk stuff that was published before. He knows a lot of the basic stuff. A lot of the ground that Planet Hulk covers was, glossed over in Thor Ragnarok.
Well, a little bit of that too, and also some bits from the original, for what came after the original event, World War Hulk. Some of that, because there was some stuff I was reading at the time during that to kind of blend it in.
Right. You're able to pick up the basics of what happened, and ultimately, it's not necessary, but I think it just helps to place things into further, deeper context. So I have not been shy about having some struggles with the current Kate's run on the Hulk. And it was nice to read like a really well-structured Hulk, even though we don't necessarily see Bruce Banner or the Hulk in 99% of this first main story. There is a backup story that involves Scar, son of Hulk, which, I'll be honest, makes you think that they are MCU-ifying some Scar stuff. Because, let's face it, if you are keeping up with the She-Hulk Disney Plus show, you will kind of recognize it.
Yay.
Yeah, a little bit. All right. So that is Planet Hulk World Breaker #1. I had a lot of fun reading it, though. It's actually a strong candidate for Kliq of the Week for me, and that is it for my books.
All righty then. For myself, we're going to start off with Pink. Flawed #3 of 6. It is the creative team of Chuck Brown, art by Prenzy, letters by Becca Carey. I believe this is an Image book. Yes. Not to rehash the story so far too much, but basically there's a psychiatrist slash vigilante at night named Jim Ez, who is the main character of the story. If you're watching the video version, you can see the character in the on the cover, with her antagonist on the inside of the silhouette. Not a silhouette, but regardless. So she's being chased after an assassin because of what's been going on. After barely escaping, she kind of seeks out some help by a family / member, but also she's kind of going through some things. And on the other side of this, the antagonist of the book, who who's basically on a time frame, kind of wants to get things done because they for them to keep being able to do what they're trying to do, they need her out of the picture. So we kind of get a little bit on both sides. We also get a little bit of backstory on the assassin that was sent after Jim, a bit, who's an interesting character in their own right, to say the least. But this has been a fun read so far. Like I said, it is 3 of 6, so we're kind of turning the story, turning a corner on the story. But I've been liking it so far. Also, shout out to Chuck Brown, hometown dude. So that was not the reason why I bought this book. Not bought this book, but it was not the reason why I was reading this book. But hey, it's just an addition, let's say. Next book for me is Magic the Gathering, Nahiri the Lithomancer #1. This is a one.
Sorry.
This is a one-shot, if I'm not mistaken.
Jesus, what the hell am I clicking on?
I have no idea, sir. But
Mute.
I was about to say there's a extension I could send to you if you need it. But anywho, it's written by Shannon McGuire, illustrated by Kath Lobo, and letters by Ed Dukeshire. So the crux of this is like we pretty much meet and go through a substantial length of time with this one planeswalker named Nahiri, who basically can talk to stone. If you know anything about Magic the Gathering, you know that the folks with magic, that's for the sake of shortening things, have magic powers that are elemental based. Let's say, and this is no different. I know a little bit about Magic the Gathering and some of the planeswalkers. This one I'm not too certain about, but I'm pretty sure this is one that's been around for a minute, because I know they have introduced a newer one or two in the comics that may or may not have shown up in the card game. But nevertheless, this one in particular, we kind of get introduced to, and we see their kind of journey from there to kind of here-ish, most say. And I don't know, I'm going to assume that we are getting this introduction because this planeswalker is going to kind of fold back into the next arc of the main Magic the Gathering book, but I don't know that for certain. But nine times out of 10, when they do these kind of side stories, that's usually why they're doing that. But it's an interesting and slightly familiar in places book. That's not a detraction, just saying it is. Like once you start reading through the story, it's like, okay, I get what's going on here, because it's something, it deals with change and people's how people deal with change for the most part. There's also a interesting Star Trek reference that I copped in here. I was like, oh, that's something I didn't expect to see in a Magic the Gathering book. But well done. But I enjoyed it, and I'm look forward to seeing where this character ends up next, because I'm fairly certain this character is going to end up in the main book, because they wouldn't just do this that I know of. The next book I have is Nubia and the Justice League Special #1. a one shot. That is written by, or the script is by Michael W. Conrad and Peggy Clunan. Art by Ammon K. Nahulpan. Colors by Tambra Bonvillain, and letters by Pat Brousseau. And that's for the first main story. And then there's another side story, or I guess an after story, backstory, not backstory, but another story that is pretty much taken up after the main story, that is written by Stephanie Williams, with pencils by Aletha Martinez, inks by Mark Morales, and colors by Alex Guamarez, and letters by Becca Carey. So the crux of this is, and it's pretty fun, it's a potential click of the week for me. It's basically Nubia interacting with the Justice League and going into her potentially joining the Justice League, because we start off with her going out on a mission with Green Arrow and Black Canary, a very hyped up Black Canary, more so than I'm used to seeing her, and then going on to interacting with other members of the Justice League, and everyone kind of coming together at the end. So it's pretty good. I believe this is pretty much setting up her joining. You can safely say it's pretty much setting up her joining the Justice League, which I believe has been in solicitations from a while back. So not a surprise. And also taking a tour of various places in the DC universe, or a couple of ends in specifically. A couple of the main ones specifically. So it's pretty fun. You should definitely, if you're in the Justice League, it's a fun book, because like I said, her interactions with them is kind of amusing. Especially, like I said, Black Canary, who's way more hyped up than I'm used to seeing her in this one, in this book.
What do you mean by hyped up? I'm just a little curious.
So, I mean, like she was like, oh man, did you see what she did here? And that kind of stuff, that kind of hyped up, like, and even saying such thing as yes queen, which is, like I said, that's the thing we rarely ever, I don't recall ever.
Yeah, that's a little out of character. I
exactly. So, but like I said, it's still fun and amusing, but it's like, yeah, that's not normally how Dina or Dinah usually kind of is usually a little more serious, but she also has her playful moments, so I can't say this is outside of the realm of her character, but it's also that part in particular just a little outside. But it was still fun, so I enjoyed it. And that's all I have to say about that. Like I said, it's a one shot, and it's pretty good. I'm going to assume that after this whole Dark Crisis thing ends, or maybe actually, because I still have no idea what's going on there, that this is where they're going to put Nubia in the Justice League. Oh yeah, that book did come out this week. So yeah. Next up for me, Star Wars, Darth Vader number 29. As I find your lack of faith disturbing. There we go. Written by Greg Pak, art by Luke Ross, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. So, after the events of last issue, we basically find out that one of Padme's handmaidens has joined Vader on his mission as his first lieutenant. The other former handmaidens get wind of this thanks to Ochi the assassin, who's like, I just want her out of here, so I'm going to help you get her away from Vader, because he wants to be the one close to Vader, and he's, that is very clear in his tone here. But the other former handmaidens, who of course all look like Padme, so they you can do some things with that. But basically there's one of them kind of goes with Ochi, and they try to find out where Sabe, who is the handmaiden that is with Vader, is. And they also talk about the fact that, yeah, she might be swayed to the dark side, but that may or may not be the case. Sabe was sent after the grandson of Wat Tambor from the Clone Wars, so that's another Clone Wars tie-in. And that kind of ends up going in an interesting way near the end of this book. As to figuring out what's, whose side she's actually on, which from what I'm reading, her own, but we'll see if that continues to be the case with whatever's going on with this arc. But yeah, so basically the former handmaid was like, no, we either got to get her back or get rid of her because she's desecrating Padme's memory. Because apparently they all must know who Vader is, because we know she knows. So it's whether the rest of them do, I cannot remember at this point. Peter Parker and Miles Morales Double Trouble Spider-Man Double Trouble #1. Excuse me, that's a long title. It is written by Mariko Tamaki and Vida Ayala, art by Guri Hiru, and letters by Corey Pettit. See, now you got me doing it. It's Corey Pettit.
I mean, if you took French, it's petite.
I did take French, and I'm still not saying it. So, so there. Nevertheless,
AP French, so it's a little bit more ingrained.
Sure. But this is a fun all ages book, where so the Peter, and this is seemingly both younger versions of the character, but still of some sort of an age where apparently Peter is rooming with Venom. Go figure. And I'm not sure if this is coming off of something else that I did not read, but this is the only one I've seen of like this. But regardless, so Peter is basically taking Miles to, quote, take your sidekick to work day. Now, obviously, Miles has some problems with this because he is not Peter's sidekick. And he has made Peter known of this, not just in this book, but definitely in this book, but outside of that. But through the course of this book also. They get into a wrinkle of trouble because apparently Peter has been taking notes from Tony Stark in his storage situation, in current storage situation, if you have been keeping up with Iron Man like we have. So, so Peter takes Miles to this hangar where he's got a bunch of stuff he's studying, from he's keeping storage and storing from villains, because as he says, you got to study what the villains throw at you. It's a kind of situation. Again, just like what Tony just did in the current Iron Man series. So it's kind of funny, and without giving too much of away, some things there kind of cause some issues going up into the end of this issue. So it's fun. I think I might keep up with this. I'm not sure if the Venom thing is going to come back into play, but that was just a funny thing that happened at the beginning of this. So yeah, if any of that I've just said is of interest to you, check it out. It's pretty fun. And the last book for me, which, speaking of fun books, X-Terminators #3, written by Leah Williams, art by Carlos Gomez, colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. Now, at the very beginning of this book and the last couple of issues, it says mature audiences.
Yeah, I skimmed this. This is definitely a mature audience's book.
It is, but it's also fun as hell. So
if you're a mature audience,
well, and immature audiences in some respects, but
yeah.
that's a whole nother side of it. So since we haven't talked about the last couple of issues, basically it starts off with Dazzler getting dumped and going out to drown her sorrows with Jubilee and Boom Boom, and that escalates into some issues with well, excuse me. Dazzler didn't get dumped. She broke up with her boyfriend, who is also still a part of the story because apparently he was a vampire, and it goes into some vampire stuff and some fairies from other world and also space. So this thing has gone a couple of different places, and they've also picked up Wolverine, Laura Kinney, in tow after the first issue. And yes, this book is a lot of fun. It's a potential Kliqsoftheweek of the rest. Basically, in this particular issue, the ladies are recounting what's been going on to the Quiet Council, but apparently they're also like under arrest or something because they're bound during this, which also, and they're dressed kind of weirdly, but I assume that's going to be addressed in the coming issues.
Yeah, like that's the I was about to say the storytelling mechanism that Leah Williams uses here is definitely a flashback.
Yes,
because and I skimmed the first two issues and I vaguely remember what happens in them. So thanks for that, refreshing my memory again. But ultimately, it seems like. Wait, do we know how many issues this miniseries is? Is it 4 or 5?
I want to say it's 5, but I'm not entirely sure, and I don't.
Hold on, let me pull it up. I have Comic List still open, so let me just scroll down and double check.
Yeah, and I don't remember it saying when I pulled the covers. Oh wait, yes it does. 5.
Oh, all right. So that means we still have 2 more.
Yeah.
So we will have 2 more issues to see how this all plays out. If it's if the last issue, if finally the story catching up to itself, as it were. So, but yeah, as you said, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely pretty horny.
Yes, yes, indeed.
That's probably putting it mildly, but I like the fact that they obviously know what they're doing. Like Leah Williams knows what she's doing by asking to put this mature readers label on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously the responsible thing to do, but once you have that license to go in that direction, she's having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. They really did definitely let her kind of go nuts with it to a certain extent. And I've been enjoying it so far. This weirdly kind of harkens back to me, and I know Agent 7A haven't, as far as I can remember, has not read this, but Next Wave. Has nothing to do with anything that happened in Next Wave, but it kind of is reminiscent of how stuff can get kind of out of control and crazy, because that book did. Also, Boom Boom was in that book, so there's a direct tie in that. But like I said, it has nothing to do with what went on in that book, written by someone completely different.
I was always kind of like, I never thought of Boom Boom being depicted that way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
the way she is here?
As being I'm going to put this kindly, top heavy. Yes. I always remember Dazzler being depicted even during the Claremont run as having a caboose, let's say.
Yes.
So
and they definitely take all of that into thought and consideration in this particular issue.
My point being that I don't recall Boom Boom being portrayed that way, in illustrations and the art, but I definitely remember Dazzler being, that being a story point.
Right. So because when we first see Boom Boom, she was a teenager, and then with X Factor, and actually, I think, wait, was she in the original? She was Fallen Angels. I keep
X-Force.
Yeah, I know that, but I know. But I mean, saying was she also in the original X-Terminators, or was probably Fallen Angels? I'm thinking about.
It's one of the two.
But regardless, she was a teen then, and I think probably come time of Next Wave, that's when they kind of aged her up and kind of. They didn't necessarily bosom her out, but
right. That's the part I don't remember. That's
right.
That's my only point.
They didn't really tart her up that much there, but but still, she was noticeably more abnormal there, I guess, or something like that. I don't remember. Regardless, this definitely talks about it. And I don't even in the current Krakoan stuff, like I don't remember them kind of going that far with it. So it is rather funny to see it here, even though it's, like I said in my notes, like, yeah, it's a weird, they're dressed kind of weirdly with the exception of Boom Boom, because like I can see her wearing stuff like this. If anyone remembers the video game Lollipop Chainsaw, it's kind of along those lines also. We're just like, you know what? Sure, if that tracks with her. So it's kind of funny. But regardless, this is a fun book. Like I said, potential Kliq of the week, and it can't stress this enough. Mature audiences on this one. Shout out to Marvel for letting this one go. Not letting this one go this far. I'm not saying that it gets too far out of left field, but with what you're used to, and this is definitely in two different places. Let's say. And,
all right.
And Lee Williams is, like as Agent 7 said, is definitely having a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it with her. And that, folks, is it for me. Kliqs of the week.
Kliqs of the week.
And we did get a couple from our. Pardon me for one moment.
Yeah, that Blue Beetle book did come out this week.
That's what I was talking about earlier when I was looking through covers. But that being said, our absent co-hosts have their Kliqs. One of which is Dirt's with the approach number 2. He says, and this is a Boom Studios book, as I found out. It says, classic horror of a group isolated at an airport during a snowstorm while a giant monster hunts them down. Fun stuff, which is kind of funny because that sounds like a Dark Pictures video game that should happen. If you are into video games and know what the Dark Pictures anthology is. And the Kliq from Tim is Blue Beetle graduation day number 1, and I believe of 5.
6 actually.
Of 6? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
At least according to Comic List.
No, you're right, because I have it in here in the thing also. So yes. So 1 of 6. And he doesn't have anything else on that, just that's the case. So as I write those down, we can get on to ours as well. Do you have yours, or?
I'm considering between basically 2 books. One of them is Strange number 8. The other one being Planet Hulk World Breaker number 1. Everything else was kind of okay. Mm-hmm. I did enjoy Star Trek number 2. But I think that Strange number 8, with its kind of well-told retcon, I think ultimately takes it over Planet Hulk. Both of them are kind of dealing with, stories that we're kind of familiar with. One of them obviously goes, into the slightly far-flung future to establish it. The other one is an artfully done retcon. I'm going to go with the retcon this week. Strange number 8.
Okay. Actually, let me put that back up real quick. Blah, yeah. And I forgot to put the other ones up, but that's fine. For myself, I think it's probably apparent, but I'm going with X-Terminators number 3. Because yeah, that book was pure fun. It will definitely read. I think it will read way better in trade, even though it reads pretty good now. Like, yeah, once it all gets out there, it's just going to be a pure fun ride. So with that, that is the Kliqs of the week for us. Let us get into an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night, folks, is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. So place your first order with $20 off. And to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through CSPN. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
And we get into the... there we go. Oh, here we go again. We get into the cinematic news as I try to mess with this camera. Starting off with MCU producer explains why there won't be a Namor, and actually I should have moved something around. I hate when that happens. But anyway, MCU producer explains why there won't be a Namor solo movie after Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So Nate Moore recently revealed that that an arrangement with Universal actually had an impact on how Namor could be used in Wakanda Forever's marketing. And while Namor can return, that deal currently stands in the way of Marvel Studios potentially producing a Namor solo movie. So basically, yeah, Universal has the rights to Namor, and therefore they can only do so much with the character. Yep.
They're trying to hold on to that license.
Like I said last week, they're going to do what they can
to hold on to that, because that is some cash flow they can count on.
There's a quote here. It honestly affects us more, and not to talk too much out of school, but in how we market the film than it does in how we use them in the film, Moore said. There weren't really things we couldn't do from a character perspective for him, which is good because clearly we took a ton of inspiration from the source material, but we also made some big changes to really anchor him in that world, in a truth that publishing never really landed on. I would argue in a big way, unquote. So yeah. Yeah, there you go. Next up.
All right, speaking of Nate Moore, in an interview with The Town, as reported by The Direct, Moore recently discussed the script that was pitched for the third Captain America film, Captain America Civil War. It originally revolved around Baron Zemo and a mad bomb, that's Kirby-era Captain America, which would cause people to fight each other. It would have been up to Cap and the Winter Soldier to stop it. Feige believed it wasn't a large enough threat. Moore explained. Feige was like, that's not a big enough idea, guys. And we're like, well, let us write a draft and we'll prove it to you. Ultimately, they settled upon the idea to have an adaptation of Civil War as part of the third Captain America movie. Despite the fact that a lot of the touchstones of the comic book Civil War event, like the New Warriors, did not exist yet in the MCU.
But they do now. Well, some of them anyway.
In a sense.
In a sense, yeah. Next up, though, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3's Zoe Saldana is ready to leave Gamora behind. Speaking with Variety, Saldana touched upon whether she's finally done playing the iconic green-skinned Guardian member for now. Quote, I can never say no to anything, but that green makeup, I wouldn't be upset if it didn't happen again. Saldana joked about the tribulations of applying Gamora's alien skin color. I miss Gamora, but I don't miss 3:30 a.m. calls and 5-hour makeup sessions and trips to the dermatologist afterwards. Can't say I blame her on that one. I hear there's a lot of...
As I said earlier.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, okay. Well, it goes on from there with her talking about a reaction to fans of the films and other stuff. But nevertheless, the bigger news is coming next, which is
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer debuted today. at CCXP22. That is Comic Con Experience 2022 in Brazil.
Nice.
You know, so Marvel Studios debuted the trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Kevin Feige, God, even Marvel.com lists Kevin Feige as president of Marvel Studios. He's Kevin Feige.
They have to do it for the folks who might not know. Come on, we know this. But
Kevin Feige introduced Zoe Saldana, who plays Gamora in the franchise, before delighting the enthusiastic fans with the trailer debut for the highly anticipated upcoming feature film, releasing in U.S. theaters on May 5th, 2023. It'll be here before you know it, folks. We're like, Christmas is right around the corner. I can't believe that May is going to be here. We're going to get Quantumania. And there's going to be a couple other things dropping between now and Guardians. But, it's an amazing time. We're just in this kind of like lull in between releases for our favorite genre forms of media.
I didn't say this earlier, but I have a slight theory, and I don't think it's far outside of feel. I think there's probably going to be a couple of deaths.
I would not be surprised.
And I'm only thinking about that because of, weirdly enough, it was the holiday special that kind of got me in mind of one particular one. I don't know if the other one, which is a slight focal point of Volume 3, might be one of them, but I know some people would probably be upset if that did happen. But nevertheless, yeah, I don't know. It's just a theory. I have nothing to go on.
Just protect Cosmo.
Yes. Oh, speaking of that, that was an interesting choice, because I didn't I'm trying to remember. So when Cosmo showed up in the first, wait, was it the first or second movie? I can't remember. I think it was the second movie, right?
First. Was
it the first one? Okay. They did voice.
No, wait, hold on.
I think it was the second. I feel like Cosmo showed up at the end of the first one at the end cutscene, but not necessarily as a part of the movie. You know what I'm saying? It was like a end credit.
Right.
So, but showed up a little bit more.
Duck.
Right. But showed up a little bit more in 2. So was it voice? Were there voice there? Okay,
no voice.
That's what I thought. So hearing Cosmo's voice in the holiday special, I was like, wait a minute. That's not what I was expecting.
It was a little high pitched.
A little bit.
I was expecting kind of a gruff Russian accent.
Right. Like, I'll just go ahead and say it. I thought it was going to be a boy dog, but apparently it's not. So which doesn't take away from the, and then the voice sounded familiar, but not from where people said the voice was from, because I never watched the movies that the actress is from.
I didn't even look up who was doing the voice.
Yeah. Let's just say very nice.
Oh no.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, exactly. That was my thought also. But I was like, but I feel like I've heard her in something else, but I just can't place it. But her voice sounded very familiar coming out of Cosmo. So
okay.
Anyway, next up though, yeah. Wait, impressions of the trailer?
I enjoyed it. It's just fun. Yeah. It feels like that second movie was a little, well, the trailer for the second movie was still good anyway. So even though I felt like the second movie was a bit of a letdown coming off of the first movie, the trailer too was still a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how Guardians 3 delivers off of a pretty fun first trailer.
Right. And just like I told you before the show, it was like, yeah, 2, and I think you kind of agree with me, it's like 2 was pretty much more of 1 in ways. And I think I'm not the only person, and we're not the only people that thought that, if that would be the case. So it's kind of,
and what's funny is that, and kind of piggybacking off of our discussion of the holiday special, it benefits this group of characters that Gunn had some space to focus on Drax and
space.
What's that?
You said space. I just don't mind me.
Yeah. Had some room, okay? Had some room to further explore Drax and Mantis in the special, because it seems that we're going to see, and we've read, some bits on this over the course of the production, that the third movie is going to give some focus to Rocket and his origin.
Mm-hmm.
I want to call him Rocket Raccoon, but I don't want to offend him and have him jump at.
Upset. Yeah, he might get a little upset about that.
So,
and fans of Rocket, definitely, because I've seen some people kind of going after people. I was like, all right, just calm down.
Right. You also read some comics, folks. But anyway, ultimately, that's that would be the character that hasn't had as much character screen time and characterization. I wouldn't say screen time, but characterization.
Right.
So
Blam.
It's nice that say again.
I was gonna say, blam, murdered you. At least we're not getting that.
Right. I mean, ultimately, we get a little bit of it during Infinity War. When he and Groot are dealing with Thor. Right. That's probably the most that we got.
And also a callback to well, I guess was it no, it wasn't Endgame. Infinity War. War. No, I'm saying where he had interaction with another character that came back up in the holiday special.
Right. Do you have anything in the news about what Gunn had to say about that?
No, I haven't seen anything on it.
Right. Oh, you haven't? So apparently the deal is that Gunn basically, got some fans all astir by saying that the character who obtained that appendage basically took it by force.
I mean, that would make sense given that character.
Right. And I was just like, wait a second. But also, I laughed because I was like, well, he's kind of trolling. But at the same time, I'd be interested to see if that becomes part of why this particular character goes a certain way in the MCU.
Right. Also, knowing what you just said, I'm sitting here like, what did they find out how Falcon and Winter Soldier went? Or
exactly. Did they talk to the Wakandans? Exactly.
Right. Which this character is not really known for being all that chatty, so I can't see that really happening. But resourceful, one would say, also. So
yes,
sure. That was a nice troll, but at the same time, I can also kind of see it happening.
Well, exactly. That's the best part. It's like, wait a second, is he trolling or is he really serious about this? That's the best part of it.
Right. And I'm kind of wondering if that's going to come back up in 3 or something, which I kind of doubt it would. But
I mean, at some point it's going to come up because, both characters have future appearances scheduled.
This is true. Yeah. This is true. Anyway, moving right along. That's a fun thing to kind of go on. Is this you? This is me, excuse me. MCU's Blade movie back on track with new director and writer. So, as Deadline reports, I feel like this we've talked about before, but I don't remember. But Lovecraft Country pilot's director, Yan Demange, or Demange, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, so I apologize, has been tapped to helm the Blade movie. The trade also reveals that When They See Us writer Michael Starbury has been hired to pen the screenplay for the upcoming MCU reboot. At the time of writing, no filming has started. It's going back to what was asked earlier, and it was revealed. Yeah, so no filming date has been revealed for the movie. Excuse me. And that's pretty much that, because it kind of goes on to some of the other things that's happened previously with that movie. So we got a writer, we have a director, and hopefully they stick. Next up.
Marvel Studios launched their Black Panther Wakanda Forever Oscar campaign by highlighting actor Angela Bassett's performance since its theatrical release in November, because technically we're in December now. The Black Panther sequel has grossed buku bucks with no signs of slowing down. So, Marvel spotlights Bassett's Queen Ramonda in their Oscars campaign kickoff, and Seated front and center, the campaign features Variety's take on the actor's mesmerizing, quote unquote, performance. The emotional weight, profound themes, and cultural impact are also listed as reasons for how the movie has distinguished itself this awards season. The poster makes it clear that Marvel intends to submit the film for Oscar nominations in all categories. Good for them.
Which I'm pretty sure they did with the first one also. And
Yes.
and I can't remember. I think it wasn't for effects, and maybe Chadwick got something posthumously, but
No, costuming. Remember we talked about this.
right,
Luke
I do
Carter
remember
won-
that, but
and for sound for scoring because of Ludwig Göransson's work.
right. So, but I know he was
and some
up-
other stuff too, but none of the acting awards went to them. They got a SAG award for like a ensemble cast.
right, but I think he was at least nominated. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it was nominated.
Right. So, but getting back to this, look, Angela Bassett is badass, so she deserves her flowers. She did act her ass off in her part in this movie. So I'd say it's a strong thing to kind of go on for, for them to go on during the Oscar season. I don't feel too good about her chances because that's the type of movie that this is, and the Oscars, bias. But here's hoping. So, rumor section, folks. Marvel eyeing Ryan Gosling or Alexander Skarsgård for a major villain in Thunderbolts at that. So I saw this floating around, and it sounds like they're trying to get one of them to play Sentry because they wanted kind of a quote evil Superman. And I'm sitting here like, Hyperion is right there. Why go with, and I don't even like Sentry anyway, so that's another thing. But still, Hyperion is right there. And has definitely played the evil Superman part in the Marvel Universe before. They could have done it. Now, again, this is rumor. So we don't even know if any of that is has any kind of weight or thing. But it sounds like something, as much as I hate to say it, sounds like something they would do. They would go with Sentry because Sentry is quote unquote a more sympathetic character.
Well, they may be reserving Hyperion for like an actual Squadron Supreme story.
Which that would be weird if they did that. So, but I have heard the
No,
rumblings.
but it would be interesting to have like JLA or Justice League analogs in the Marvel universe.
Sure. But given,
I mean, that's the whole point of the Squadron Supreme.
but they're also like from a whole nother dimension and that whole other stuff, that's going on with them.
Hey, we're about to go into Secret Wars, so maybe that's why they're holding on to them.
Maybe.
So, but anyway, it is rumor, so.
Yeah,
I ain't one of the gospel, so you ain't heard that from me.
there it is.
Alrighty, next up, Bill Murray's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. That is the third Ant-Man movie, folks. Yeah, Bill Murray's role in that movie may be more substantial than expected if a newly released poster for the film is anything to go by. As noted by the direct, the new theater standee features Murray's name among the top billed actors in the movie. This suggests that Murray's as of yet undisclosed character will have a bigger part to play than the brief cameo many fans previously assumed the Hollywood legend would make.
So
We don't know yet. That movie is even closer
right.
than Guardians. So we'll see very soon, the proof of the pudding when we go to watch this.
Right. But my whole thing is like, okay, it's Bill Murray. So of course he's going to get some sort of billing, whether his role is going to be that big or not. Not again, that's, maybe to give him a little too much credit, but it's also Bill Murray. So
Right.
I don't know. It's just weird to see him in a Marvel movie at all because I feel like you would, granted, wouldn't see him in something like this. But we don't know what his part is. But we also know that, look, that Marvel money is pretty tempting for a lot of folks.
Yep.
So, yeah. Speaking of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, there was a trailer from CCXP this today. It's more of a legacy trailer. It's basically kind of going back through the beats of the last couple of Ant-Man movies, and then a little bit into the new one. Not much that hasn't been seen from the trailers of the current movie, but nevertheless, it's a nice little walk through Scott Lang's journey through the MCU, which as Agent 70 was kind of leaning on a little bit. It's like, yeah, we were talking before the show, like who would have thought we'd have 3 Ant-Man movies, much less 1.
Right. We got 3 Ant-Man movies. He's shown up in Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
He showed up in Endgame.
And
Not so much in, we don't see him at all in Infinity War, but we see him in Endgame.
Oh, right, because because he was still in the quantum realm. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but nevertheless, if you haven't taken a look at this trailer, you should. It's like I said, there's not really much in it that you probably haven't seen before, but still, it's a nice little walk. Next up.
Alrighty, the MCU's damage control will reportedly play a significant role in Armor Wars. So the ineffectual damage control, as we've seen them portrayed as thus far, apparently is going to have a much more substantive role in Armor Wars on Disney Plus. This is more rumor, apparently.
Mm-hmm. But also, I wouldn't be surprised because if you think about where we've seen them, and we know they've been using Star Tech, it would not be surprised that Roby's like, you know what? Yeah, they've been getting a little out of pocket, so let's just take it from them type situation. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen because all this is rumor, but that sounds plausible to me as to something that would happen. So we don't
pretty much.
Yeah. Ryan Reynolds has apparently worked on a Christmas Deadpool movie. And it says here in an interview with some place, The Big Issue, I don't know what that is, but Reynolds explains that 4 years ago, he and Deadpool co-writers Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick wrote a Christmas movie starring Deadpool, but it got lost in the shuffle of Disney acquiring Fox, and it never got made. That's probably for the best, I'm thinking, but that's just me. Maybe one day we'll get to make that movie. It's not a musical, but it's full Deadpool Christmas movie. So one day. Things have happened. Stranger things have happened. So, yeah, there you go. Next up.
Speaking of that Marvel money looking very enticing, Lindsay Lohan has expressed interest in joining the MCU. Launched into mainstream media at a young age, many are aware of Lohan's kind of circuitous journey through Hollywood. So in a recent interview with Forbes, Lohan discussed her new film, Falling for Christmas, and she explained that she likes to see what comes, but added that romantic comedies are something she'll continue to look for. In terms of other genres, she noted that she has yet to do action and that she would love to do something with Marvel.
She already has a Disney tie.
And that's all, that's all I have to say about that. I mean,
I don't think so. Homie, don't play that.
That's my attitude towards it. But you know what? If they find the right role for her where she's not, front and center, then maybe.
I mean, the MCU, the Marvel Universe in itself has a few redheads. So any number of them that hasn't already have seen screen time can be a thing. Not saying that she has to be a redhead, but also she's having a resurgence from that now. So I guess good for her after her, her issues. But like I said, she already has a Disney tie, so I wouldn't be surprised if that hasn't been talked about at some point. Next up, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse will have 6 dominant art styles, apparently. So it says here that so we all know that we're getting not 1 but 2 Spider-Verse sequels. That's the upcoming Across the Spider-Verse and Beyond the Spider-Verse in 2023 and 2024 respectively. And it says here that that means that visuals are about to get even more dazzling, according to this article. says here that the first film had one animation style that dominates the movie. This movie has 6, according to producer Phil Lord. Quote, we're taking those tools, adding all the things we learned on the Mitchells versus the Machines, and then growing them further to accommodate the ambition of this movie, which is to wow you every time you enter a new environment, and also to make sure that the style of the movie reflects the story, and that the images are driven by feelings, as opposed to some egg-headed art project, which it is also, by the way. Now, some would argue we've kind of seen some of this in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, but some could also say that maybe that movie was potentially influenced by the first Spider-Man movie, I would dare say. So just kind of going back to the well. Not saying going back to the well, that's the wrong term to say, but just kind of upping the stakes a little bit, up in the ante just a little bit though. So anyway, that's that. Next up.
Indy, I am so glad you are not dead. Indiana Jones is officially back. Disney revealed the first trailer for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is the official title for the 5th installment of Harrison Ford's whip-cracking adventure franchise. On top of that, the trailer showcased a de-aged Harrison Ford as Indy back in his glory days of archaeology and adventures. The film is scheduled for release on June 30th, 2023. I enjoyed this. I had some good laughs. I thought one of them was a great callback to a scene from it's Raiders, right?
The first one, yes.
Yeah, with the whip and the gun.
I haven't watched the trailer, but yes, that's where they're from. Yeah, but that's where that's from.
I didn't.
No, you're good. Right. You're good.
Right. So when you see it, you'll get it right away.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is the trailer.
That's why I spoke about it, vaguely. I wasn't sure that you had. I thought I sent you a link to it.
Well, you did, but like I said, I had seen the fact that this was out there. I just hadn't watched it. That's the only one I hadn't actually watched. The rest of them I had.
Got it. Whereas I hadn't actually seen the Ant-Man recap. That legacy trailer that we were just talking about.
Right. So, but. Yeah, so apparently Harrison Ford is happy with the de-aging that was done on this film. So, and I guess I assume the still that's in the article, and that the Empire cover that I showed from the last article is proof of it not being terrible. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to watch this trailer after the show. But moving right along, The Mandalorian Season 3 gets a release date. Not to get us taken off of YouTube, but so this was also announced at Brazil Comic Con, and we only have to wait until March 1st, 2023, which is kind of funny because that's I believe that's the start of fiscal second quarter. No, wait, no, I'm sorry, we're still in fiscal. First fiscal. So never mind. Forget what I was just said. Because I was about to say that's kind of slick. They're timing it at the beginning of the second quarter of fiscals, but that's not true. It's near the end of fiscal 1 though. So nevertheless, it's still gonna.
I was gonna say, they're putting it out in the height of tax prep season. That's about it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this is one of the projects I was referring to when I talked about things coming out in between Marvel releases. Specifically, I was thinking of this one because we have Quantumania in February and then Guardians in May. This comes out in March. That's awesome.
Right. Because usually when you see like a date of the first like this, I'm like, okay, they're trying to come in before or at a certain time. Normally, nothing just comes out on the first, but doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. So yeah, looking forward to that. Tenoch Huerta honored by Jason Momoa comparisons.
Oh no, I'll say this is my story.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead then.
It's all right. Tenoch. Actually, you know what I've heard him say Tenoch or Tenoch.
Right. Okay. Well.
But then again, he's the one that's trying to make everyone call him Namor. But But this is his actual name, so I'm going to respect him.
Yes.
When he says Tenoch Huerta is honored by comparisons with Jason Momoa, the DC Aquaman, but he does say that Namor or Namor would win a fight with Aquaman, and I agree with him. Imperious Rex.
If it was other versions, you know what? Let me stop. I don't know. I would probably agree. I would probably agree with this, but I'm more of a Marvel head than DC anyway. But at the same time, if this was a different version of Aquaman, I would say absolutely yes. Like Jason Momoa is kind of a big dude, you know. I know I'm saying obviously there's more to play with than just, you know, than just that. But I don't know. Like I said, dude, you know, hey, dude stocked himself up pretty well for Black Panther. Also, apparently in this article, I know this has been going around, which I did not put in the thing. I think this was in the same article that talked about them having to digitally retouch his Speedo. Because, you know, he was kind of holding apparently or something. And
let's just say
confirmed,
it was more 3D than it was in the movie.
Right. And he confirmed that, yeah, that such a thing happened. So I was like, okay.
That's funny.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, yeah, that's good. That's a fun. That's kind of silly. All right. Now to me, the original Teen Titans series reruns are returning to Cartoon Network, which for some strange reason I figured they had not stopped being on Cartoon Network, so go figure. According to Cartoon Network's upcoming schedule, reruns of the original Teen Titans animated series will return to the network on Sunday, December 4th. Shout out to Jay-Z's birthday, I guess, and someone else's birthday that I know of. But anyway, for a 3-hour block starting 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, if you're a fan of the original I was about to spell out the whole thing. I'm not going to do it. Never mind. The original Teen Titans show, and I know there are a lot of you out there. Enjoy, but you probably already have it on DVD. So, or watching it on HBO Max. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, I was about to say it's on HBO Max, but you know what? Good for the people who want to tune in on Cartoon Network.
Yep. Next up.
All right, Warner Brothers Television Studios is close to striking an animation deal with Amazon for DC branded content. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, Channing Dungey teased the news at Content London, stating that the studio is exploring animated IP on different platforms, including Warner Brothers Discovery-owned HBO Max. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like, wait, you own it. Do you really have to do such a thing?
Sure. Greater distribution.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, that. But I'm sorry, on HBO Max, not on Amazon. That part, I get that. So yeah, the more places, the merrier. Because ain't no telling what the future holds for HBO Max.
Exactly.
So So just to wrap up some old news on a thing, Walter Hamada, the former president of DC Studios, if I'm correct, is joining Paramount Pictures following his Warner Brothers Discovery exit. So yeah, Paramount Pictures announced that it has entered an exclusive multi-year deal with Hamada that will see him heading up all of its horror genre films for both theatrical and streaming releases. In a public statement about the deal, Paramount Pictures president and CEO Brian Robbins, I believe not to be confused with the actor, called Hamada the, quote, the ideal partner and visionary, to take point on the company's horror-focused endeavors. He also pointed to the success of director Parker Finn's Smile, which was released theatrically after originally being meant for Paramount Plus, because no one watches Paramount Plus. That was me editorializing. As an example of the kind of opportunities Paramount sees in pursuing the horror genre, with Hamada guiding the studio's effort. So, cool. Good. Glad dude landed somewhere. Next up.
Star Trek, the Next Generation alum Jonathan Frakes approached J.J. Abrams about directing Star Trek IV. In a new interview with TrekMovie.com, the actor best known for his role as Commander William Riker revealed how he approached the producer-director of 2009 Star Trek reboot about helming the sequel. He actually wrote JJ to say, if you need an experienced guy to take over Star Trek IV, he's available. He said, you are certainly experienced. So Star Trek IV has been stuck in development hell since the release of 2016 Star Trek Beyond. So no word whether or not this might actually happen. So, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, and I believe Frakes has directed a couple of the Generations movies, or the Star Trek TNG movies. But Generations might have been one of them. I can't remember. Regardless, hey, we'll see.
I was about to say, did he direct any of Picard?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that whole thing is like your certain experience. That kind of sounds like a brush off, but at the same time, like that's me reading it and not probably how it was meant.
Right.
Transformers: Rise of the Beasts first trailer is full of maximal action. After years of there's a lot of Transformers movies, folks, and I can't say whether they're good or not because I can't say that I've seen.
I was about to say I have not watched Bumblebee.
Neither have I, but I hear good things about that one. I think I've watched the first one and part of that second. So that second one, and that's about as far as I've gotten. I keep threatening to watch them all, and I don't know why I'm putting myself through it because they're all Bay movies. Anywho,
I was about to say that third one. I don't think I ever made it all the way through.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. But it says here, after years of Paramount's live-action Transformers movies feeling like they were coasting on their good looks, Transformers: Rise of the Beast's first teaser trailer is here to remind everyone that Beast Wars also has always been the superior chunk. Okay, and this article's writer saying this. I love me some Beast Wars. Don't get me wrong, but a superior chunk of the larger Transformers franchise is a bit of a stretch. I am sorry. I'm a G1 fan. Die hard. I love me some Beast Wars, but that's a stretch. And this is probably
Beast Wars is kind of after my time of being a Transformers fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I am wholly unfamiliar with the concept. I think I tried watching it. I was just like, oh, okay, that's
Beast
enough
Wars
for me.
Great. Beast Wars is great. Now, shout out to Charles William Moore because I've read some of his stuff and he's usually pretty good. That's a little bit of a stretch there, Holmes, bruh. Personally speaking, you have your opinion. Anywho, the longest short of it is that, hey, there's a new teaser trailer for Rise of the Beast, which does look actually pretty good, despite the fact that it is in the same vein as those other Transformers movies. We got some Primal, we got some Cheetor, we saw some Air Razor action, we saw a little bit of Rhinox in there even. Peter Cullen, Optimus Prime was in there, so they hit some stuff.
It's still weird that they changed some of the car models.
Yes.
I'm like, that's not an F1 car. That's supposed to be an F1 car.
Oh, right. Yes. Mirage was also in there. I was like, yeah, right. I agree. Because
I'm like, that's not Jazz.
Right. Exactly. or the other one who's escaped me, who was also that same
a Porsche.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Blue Streak, I think. Was it Blue Streak? Maybe. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I was like, wait, Mirage is a freaking F1 car. This is that. But then again, Bumblebee, because they screwed that one up too.
Right.
So, which I get. No, I stand behind it. Screwed that one up too. But then
they
again,
did screw it up.
But
I mean, they did callbacks to it, but at the end of the day, they screwed it up.
Right. So, it is what it is. But the trailer looked pretty good. There was a lot going on, and I'm not entirely sure who the big bad is going to be in this, but I guess we'll find out at some point. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. If you are a fan of those live action Transformers movies. Yeah. Next up.
With a number of veterans of the movie series already confirmed to be back, Angelica Houston is also set to make her John Wick franchise return with the latest ballerina casting. Anna de Armas is leading the cast of the upcoming film, a spin-off of the Keanu Reeves-led action franchise revolving around an assassin trained as a ballerina who embarks on a quest to find those that murdered her parents. Len Wiseman, best known for helming the Underworld movie franchise, is directing Ballerina on a script co-written with franchise vet Shay Hatton and promising young woman's Emerald Fennell, who was brought on by de Armas. So, you know what? It's just great that, they're keeping some of these veteran actors in these stories, keeping them busy.
Sure. Especially if they want to do it. So,
yeah.
Next up. Sorry, had to change the tire there for a second. Whoa. Some sad news. Die Hard and Top Gun actress Clarence Gilliard Jr. Dies at age 66. Now, if that name doesn't sound familiar, you may remember this. From
exactly.
That is, I don't want to say this is legacy, but let's face it, that's kind of pretty much what I know him from. I vaguely remember from Top Gun, unless he was in a new one.
No, he was one of the Rio officers in Top Gun, and right, one of the backseat, radar, right. And like a radio. I forget what Rio stands for now.
Right. So basically, he was a man in the chair, just like he was in Die Hard.
Right. He was also on a show that I never watched, which was Walker, Texas Ranger.
He was also in Matlock. He took over for the other for Ken Holiday, and this part I remember because weirdly enough, but yeah, he took up after Ken Holiday left Matlock to be Matlock's investigator, sidekick. I don't know what to call them, what to call those, but his assistant or something. I don't know. Regardless, it was.
Yeah, but that's too. It's bad news. 66 is way too young.
Right. Also, I forgot he was in Texas Ranger because I did remember seeing him. Yeah, Trevette. I do remember that. Didn't watch too much Texas Ranger, but I do remember. Yeah, him as. I forgot it was him basically. So. Yes, he will be missed, and once again,
pretty much.
Yeah.
Listen, we all know that's a sound drop that I've had in stock on my soundboards for a while. So it's sad that now that whenever we play it, we'll have to we'll be in a sense paying our respects.
Indeed, yes.
Alrighty, next up. So, we know that all the Charlie Brown specials, all the Peanut specials have been bought out by the people over at Apple TV Plus. So, there are ways to watch a Charlie Brown Christmas online. It's not going to air on broadcast television in 2022. So as Roddykat just showed people, if you are watching the video, you can in fact go out and buy a hard copy of the entire collection of Peanuts holiday specials.
Well,
that's probably the best thing for you to do, because who knows what happens with all these streaming services.
Well, this particular one is not all of them. It's just the big three. But yes, you can. I believe you can still find the DVDs of all of them out there somewhere.
Right, but I'm thinking of the big three.
Right.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Halloween.
Right.
All right. Those are the ones that most people know.
Right.
So, but ultimately, you can watch it on Apple TV Plus with a new subscription. If you want to watch it for free, it's actually going to be streaming on Apple TV Plus for non-subscribers through access from Thursday, December 22nd through Sunday, December 25th on Apple TV Plus. All you have to do is pull up the app on some sort of device, and you'll be able to watch it on those days, December 22nd through December 25th again.
Yeah, I was about to say this article is basically a rinse and repeat of when we talked about the Thanksgiving one a couple of weeks ago, and they just changed the date. That's actually pretty much what they did in this. But yeah, so it's damn you, Apple. That's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, you know what's bad is that I know people who have basically done away with physical media. They may not even have an actual DVD or Blu-ray player at home, especially if they're not gamers.
Right.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's tough, right? A lot of people really have decided to forego all physical media because everything that they want to watch is streamable. But you know, I still hold on to my DVDs. I still have mine. I have not decided to let them go just yet.
Yeah, if anything, I'm ripping them and putting them somewhere, but you know, that's
well, essentially as backups.
Right. Exactly.
You know, because you still have your discs. So,
and as we are prone to say sometimes, you can probably find these out there some way through other means if you're resourceful enough.
Out there in the internet ether.
Yes, but it's, you know, having them not on network TV is just a bummer. We don't have Saturday morning cartoons anymore, and now this.
Yep.
Anyway. Legendary Entertainment formalizes Sony deal after cutting ties with Warner Brothers. I believe this is where you would cue the Godzilla roar.
Oh, really? Hold on.
There we go. Legendary Entertainment, the production company behind Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong, and other things, has cut ties with Warner Brothers and entered a multi-year worldwide, that's another thing I should get up, film distribution partnership with Sony Pictures. Under the new agreement, Sony will market and distribute Legendary's upcoming theatrical motion picture titles. However, select existing projects at Legendary are exempt from the pact, meaning Warner Brothers Pictures is still backing, quite, you know, not unsurprisingly, Dune Part 2, which is the sequel to that last Dune, the thing that they did, which I still haven't seen.
I haven't watched it.
Yeah, and Dune is that's a slog. No matter how they've done it. I can't say anything for that one, but the ones I've seen previously. Anyway, in a press release, Sony Pictures and Legendary emphasized that the companies are aligned in their, quote, ongoing commitment to theatrical distribution as a driver for other downstream windows and the theatrical window's long-term value for films. Cha-ching. You know what? That's it. So... And
right.
Well, actually, yeah, because it goes on. This article kind of goes on to say that that sentiment may be a not so subtle nod at Legendary's public spat with Warner Brothers back in late 2020, which I forgot about. They were kind of beefing for some reason, so which led them to kind of get away from them. But yeah, there you go. Bye. Next up.
All right, so we're in anime corner
We
now.
are. I feel like this is Agent 70's not so subtle nod to get me to watch My Hero.
Netflix's animated adaptation of the popular webcomic Lookism sets a December release date, having been delayed due to the Itaewon tragedy. So Lookism has settled on a new Netflix release date, which arrives after the South Korean series' original date experienced a delay due to the Itaewon tragedy. That's the Halloween tragedy that occurred on October 29th with the deadly crowd rush. Netflix Anime revealed on its official account that Lookism will land on Netflix on December 8th. So that is a week away, folks. The series, based on the South Korean webcomic, was originally supposed to air on November 8th, only to be delayed due to the Itaewon tragedy. Let's see here. Yeah. So, if you're a fan, and if you're just looking for some new anime, sit tight. That'll be here before you know it.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of new anime, that'll be the next article coming up. But My Hero Academia Season 6 is premiering on Toonami soon. It says here that it is the current storyline with the Paranormal Liberation Front's bases is currently reaching a major turning point as the first arc of the season rounds out its final episodes as a part of fall 2022 anime schedules over the next weeks. Adult Swim has officially announced on Toonami's Facebook page that My Hero Academia Season 6 will be kicking off its run this Saturday, so that it would be December the 3rd as of this recording, which is on the 1st of December. Excuse me. So, hey, if you're still watching Toonami, look forward to that. But you've probably already seen this if you're into My Hero. So, hey, Toonami's still kicking around there. You gotta love it. Next up.
At the start of a splashy Asia Pacific content showcase held in Singapore this past Wednesday, the Walt Disney Company revealed that it is expanding its long-running partnership with Japanese publishing powerhouse Kodansha to co-produce a growing slate of anime originals for the Disney Plus streaming service. The expanded collaboration also will include licensing exclusive anime titles based on manga produced by Kodansha, starting with Tokyo Revengers Christmas Showdown arc, which will launch exclusively on Disney Plus and Disney Plus Hotstar in January 2023. I am not Tokyo Revengers, I think, is on my list. My notebook is downstairs in the living room, but I think Tokyo Revengers is on my anime list, and I'm kind of in between right now. I'm keeping current with some current anime stuff, but I don't have anything to binge through just yet. Taking a little break after having just finished my rewatch of Attack on Titan. Coincidentally, another Kodansha property.
I mean, granted, I can't talk, but he watches his two favorite, but hasn't pushed play on some new stuff yet, folks.
What do you mean?
You said you were going to start Yu Yu Hakusho, but you.
Well, I'm keeping up with the new stuff. That's why I was kind of confused by what you said.
Yeah.
Keeping up with Chainsaw.
No. That was outside.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I was gonna start Yu Yu Hakusho probably. I jumped into a rewatch of Attack on Titan.
So yeah, as Agent7 said, he is caught up currently on what I know we both have been watching, which is Spy Family and Chainsaw Man. We will get to that Chainsaw Man thing in a few. But next up, the Promised Neverland artist reveals art for new Disney and Kodansha live-action anime hybrid. Excuse me. So we just talked about the Disney and Kodansha partnership. So it appears that one original series has brought on the Promised Neverland's artist Posuka Demizu for the original character and concept arts designs. As a part of this new exclusive partnership, Disney will be more involved in bringing Kodansha's various franchises to life, but that won't be all their partnership will include, which we've already talked about the other side of that. Let's see. Disney and Kodansha have officially revealed Dragons of Wonder Hatch, a new live-action series that will incorporate anime elements to make it a new kind of hybrid project. This new series is currently in the works for a release exclusively with Disney Plus next year. And we've already said who's involved with that. And the fact there's samples of the art in this article in the tweet that they did. So about it. Cool. Next up.
All righty. So the director of Jujutsu Kaisen is set to oversee an original Disney anime titled Bullet. So this is coming from that same Asia Pacific content showcase in Singapore this past week. And Disney announced an original anime series of its own with Sung-Hoo Park, the director of Jujutsu Kaisen. And as I said, the original anime he's working on is titled Bullet, which will be produced at his newly established animation studio E&H Productions. This will be streaming exclusively on Disney Plus.
Yeah, so Disney Plus getting big into anime.
Jumping into, I was about to say, getting more content.
Hey, everybody else is doing it. Why not?
Yep.
Bungo Stray Dogs confirms season 4 release date with a new trailer. So yeah, January 4th is the date in Japan, and that means it'll be launching as a part of the winter 2023 anime schedule that kicks off in just a few weeks, according to this article. To celebrate the release date, the anime has dropped the fullest trailer for the new episodes that teases a whole new king of conflict coming our way. And you can check that trailer out in this article if you are up on Bungo Stray Dogs, which I can only attest to, like the first season and a half, or season, almost 2 seasons of. It's a pretty good show. I need to go back and catch up on it, actually. Next up.
One Punch Man season 3 is officially happening, folks. Almost 3 years after the second season wrapped its run on the small screen. As reported by Crunchyroll, the official website for the One Punch Man TV anime, confirmed last week that a 3rd season of the hit show will be going into production. A key visual drawn by character designer Chikashi Kubota was posted alongside the announcement. The artwork features Saitama and Garou, but it does not offer any teasers of what will actually evolve in the upcoming season. It's about time.
Yeah. So here, this kind of slightly highlights the thing that I've noticed in the last few years with anime. Usually 26 episodes of an anime would just usually be that it. And we know One Punch Man has 26 episodes. Sometimes they've more currently been broken up into 13 episode seasons. That sometimes that happens, but not always. Or more historically, it'd be like 22 to 24 to 26 episodes would be like a season or something like that. But when I read this, I was like, wait, where did the second season come from? It was what I'm getting at, because it's like, I know I have watched all of One Punch Man, and it is not, I don't remember it being another season to it, but they're basically breaking down the 26 episodes into 2 seasons, which, like I said, has been happening more often than not, you know, for whatever odd reason.
Exactly. So it depends on, you know, like if I think I watched on Netflix,
Probably, or Hulu more likely though, or just as likely.
right? Either one, you know, like I remember going through 26 episodes. So, but I think it's like organized as just one whole full season.
And even Crunchyroll kind of has some weird numbering with some of their anime now with some things, but it is what it is. And some of it, I think, as the anime has gotten bigger, I dare say some of it's probably monetary driven, because, you know, you put the stuff out there, it's like, hey, you go, here's half of it, and you know folks are gonna buy it, and then when the next one finally shows up, you can get them to pay for that, as opposed to one lump 26 episode thing that you're only getting one lump sum of money out of. That's me speculating, by the way, but you know.
Yeah, you gotta give them a taste. That's how the game is played, folks.
Oh yeah.
Oh, this is you. You got this.
Get this one, folks. If we're not going to spoil it, if you're not up on the latest episode of Chainsaw Man and you are so inclined to do so, you might want to do so.
That's crazy, son.
It really is crazy. But and if this might be a spoiler for you, even in looking, if you're watching the video version in the title of this article. But basically, hey, this last episode was a trip, and some things happened. And if you've watched it, well, I know there's some people out there who's like, oh, well, I read the manga, so I'm not worried about it, because this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Those of us who are just watching anime are like, this is some crazy shit.
Yeah. I was about to say, I'm like, wait a second. Roddykat likes to poke fun at the fact that he stopped watching Attack on Titan because something similar happened to the lead character early-ish in the show. So
it's not the same.
No, but it's similar.
But I know what you're saying. Yes, but it's not
it's
quite
similar.
the same. Yes.
It's very similar though.
A major character. Some things happen. Matter of fact, something happens to a couple
Major
characters. Yes, something happens to a few characters in the course of this last episode. So whether there's a permanent change,
whether there are lasting, exactly, whether there are lasting effects
or not,
remains.
I suspect at least one case no, but one case yes, one case no. Matter of fact, after I watched it, I started theorizing. It's like, wait, so clearly some of this was, this and that and the other, which, blah, 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 trying to make sense of it all. Cause it was like, this is crazy. Now, granted, Chainsaw Man has been crazy since the jump. So, and it's only been kind of crazier, in the 7 episodes or whatever it is that are out right now. So yeah, show's great, but it's also, that Joker was crazy.
It's bonkers.
I was like, I stopped. When it started jumping off, I was like, this is some Godfather shit. I mean, but also I was like, what is going on? Like, I just sat there, I paused it. I'm like, what is going on? And then it kind of just kept on going from there. I was like, man, but it's good. It's great. But also I was like, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
So, like I said, if you're not caught up on it, get caught up on it if you are so interested. But also, man, beware of actual spoilers. But even though that's might have been partially. Next up.
All right. So we're transitioning over into manga news in the print corner.
Nice.
And the reason why I chose that is because this story revolves around Dragon Ball Super, which is set to return with new chapters very soon. It's been in the middle of a hiatus for the last few months as the manga prepares for its next major story arc. And now the wait will soon be over as the series has officially set a return date for its next wave of chapters. So let's see when that is. Looking for the date.
It's in the second paragraph.
Here we go. I skipped past it, unfortunately. So the manga has officially announced that the series will be coming back from hiatus with chapter 88 of the series on December 21st in Japan and on December 20th for the rest of the world. Most likely, this will kick off the next major arc of the series. Okay.
Still hadn't caught up with the anime. I guess that'll be my next one. Assassination Classroom creator is tired of Chainsaw Man inspired mangas, to which I'm not. I also found it funny that this particular person is like that. I guess I kind of get it, but also like, has there actually been a rash of? I'm not surprised because sometimes when something popular happens, there are like manga / anime that tends to happen. But yeah, the mangaka of Assassination Classroom noted the influx of Chainsaw Man inspired manga and has some thoughts and advice for up and coming mangaka creators. Yusei Matsui, the writer and illustrator of Assassin's Classroom and The Elusive Samurai, was one of the judges at the latest Jump New World Manga Award. And according to Shonen Jump News, the unofficial translation, he noted there are many, quote, human drama entries that showed signs of Tatsuki Fujimoto's influence, the mangaka of Chainsaw Man. While he commented that that what he saw showed in, quote, overall high level, he grew tired of them as it is an overwhelmingly large number, according to him, apparently. Matsui offered one piece of advice, not to be confused with the One Piece anime / manga, of advice to future mangaka. They needed to carefully think about self-production, how to stand out from the crowd, to hone their originality, quote unquote. So, with according to this article, with so many new manga series debuting weekly Shonen Jump and often getting abruptly cut in a few chapters, it's clear that the magazine is looking for something unique that will appeal to readers. but also you can kind of take that as, well, Shonen Jump's kind of also kind of has a hand in that. I can almost guarantee you. If it's anything like the comic book industry, and it kind of sort of is, probably, sometimes that tends to happen. Like you see this one thing catch on, and then you happen to see it happen somewhere else, or in the case of Marvel and the DC's, between each other, back and forth. Like, oh yeah, let's do this event. Let's do that event, but it's slightly different. Anyway, next up.
So this next story has some spoilers for the current run of My Hero Academia manga. I don't know if I actually read this particular release. I have to double check, but I remember the story leading up to this. You know, and a lot of times there's not a lot that happens in some of these manga releases. Sometimes there is, but ultimately there's a cliffhanger that teases Professor, one of the teachers of UA, Aizawa, Eraserhead, being reunited with a former classmate who has undergone some serious changes since he and present Mike, his fellow classmate and fellow teacher, last encountered this character. And this is something that has been developing over the recent history of the manga and the latter part of the anime. So I'm not going to go into all the spoilers, but at the end of the day, that's what is going on.
Gotcha. We are going to get into comic book news, and if you wouldn't be so kind as to take this next one.
DC reunites the world's finest in Superman's return to Earth. So Superman's return to Earth leads to a reunion between the world's finest. For those who may not be keeping up with the Man of Steel, Clark Kent / Kal-El has been off Earth pursuing Mongul and his war world in Action Comics. This left John Kent free to take on the mantle of Superman on Earth. Both Supermen, that is, have had to fight tough battles separately, but will soon be back together again as Kal-El returns to Earth. Superman Return Special Number 1 celebrates Superman's triumphant return with a collection of stories from an all-star list of creators, and one story features the world's finest duo of Batman and Superman. Okay.
And I want to say, well, maybe not, because I was about to say that Nubia special kind of also had the Trinity kind of pop up for a second, but I think that stuff they alluded to might have been going on in the pages of Wonder Woman. So what I was about to say is probably not true. Now, folks.
I was about to say the issue is on sale now.
Yes, it is. It came out this week, and neither one of us read it. So now, folks, we are going to get into a nice little corner where Agent 70 is going to take a nap, I think, because we're going to talk about some video game stuff in relation to comic books. First,
okay.
And this is going to be a good stretch, so you'll love it. Well, it's video games and other stuff, but nevertheless. James Gunn says that the DCU's continuity includes video games. So, responding to a fan on Twitter who asked if Gunn was planning to give more DC characters TV shows that would connect to the DCU, the co-CEO of DC Studios confirmed that everything will be connected. Which, wow, sounds kind of familiar, huh? When another Twitter user asked if there were any plans for games to be connected to the DCU as well, Gunn simply responded, yes. Yeah, that's all we got of that. So, you know. And what relation that will be, I guess we'll find out at some point, somewhere down the line. Next up, Avatar Aang and Korra join Minecraft in new DLC. So yeah, Minecraft has joined forces with Avatar: The Last Bender for its recent collaboration, which reminds me of a DC collaboration that I meant to check out, but maybe soon. Minecraft's official Twitter announced its upcoming DLC titled Avatar Legends, including character skins for Aang, Roku, Kyoshi, and Korra, and promotional art. The aforementioned figures are the previous avatars of the respective air, fire, earth, and water elements. If, you know, there are some folks who probably don't know that, I guess. It's unclear if Mojang's collaboration with the Avatar franchise will include any other special content except for character skins. Because yeah, the DC thing they did with them was like a whole world. So there's no telling whether it's just going to be these character skins or not. But cool. Let's see. Next up, take a first look at Magic the Gathering's reskinned Secret Lair Transformers cards. So I think we've already talked about previously that in the current expansion, Brothers War, there are some Transformers card in there beyond. I think in the series they're called the Beyond something or other. I can't remember. But they Universes Beyond is the series. Excuse me. And there are Transformers cards in that set, and they're not a separate set. They're just in there. So if so basically, if you open up a booster pack and you happen to find some Transformers cards in there, that is not a mistake. Secret Lair, which is basically a select set of side cards that they do way too frequently, and unfortunately I have bought a few sets of those. They're doing another set of Secret Lair cards based off of those Transformers cards, and they're going to be reskinned, and usually Secret Lair cards are pretty much come up for pre-order, and they're limited number, and once the time of the pre-order comes up, that's it, and then when they ship, they just go out to folks. And a lot of times they are playable in standard. In this case, I can't remember if the Universe Beyond cards are. I think they are. And for Commander in this case, but I don't play Commander, so I don't know. But nevertheless, like the cards are you can see images of the cards in the Secret Lair sets, and they're going to be like 4 sets, and they're going to be, which this is also troubling to me personally, but there's going to be like 4 sets, and they're going to be $30 each for non-foiled and $40 for foiled copies. So yeah, that's again kind of troubling in a couple of ways for me. But people have been buying them, so they're gonna keep doing them, and I'm probably gonna end up buying some of those myself. So who am I kidding? Blade Runner RPG announces December release date. So in a Swedish publishing house Free League has announced that its upcoming Blade Runner tabletop RPG will land in mid-December. It says in a press release, the company shared that it will release Blade Runner, the role-playing game, on December 13th, meaning that fans can get their hands on the tabletop title before Christmas. So yeah, if you ever wanted to do some role-playing in the Blade Runner universe, here's an official way to do it, because there have been other ways to do it. The company also announced that the prospective players who pre-ordered ahead of the official release date could gain early access to a PDF of the game's rules and story, so you can kind of get ahead on it. Speaking of RPGs, Marvel Multiverse role-playing game rolls out new 1.3 game update. The newest updates are in, and the role-playing game, which is still in playtest up until next June, is ever-changing. So the 1.3 updates are lined in this article if you are interested in that. Some things have definitely changed if you, like me, bought the initial physical copy of the book, and some of the changes renders some of the things in the book useless, as some other articles have said, which is true, because they basically changed some categories of skills and how things go. But that's how things like this happen, folks. Changes happen. I believe if you also bought a digital version somewhere, I believe those may be updated, and the updates have also been put on their site, Marvel's site, for the RPG, so you can kind of download the updated rules there to go along with things. So, which I would probably recommend you do if you are interested in the game. I already have and looked through some of that stuff. It's okay. Some notable changes, but some smart right changes, I would dare say. Let's see. We still got a couple more go. Nope, that's it, actually. Nope, I'm wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Yep, I will let Agent 70 know when he can come back into play here. Ant-Man Funko Pops bring first, like, granted I could have pushed this one, but Ant-Man 3 Funko Pops bring first official look at MODOK in the MCU. So looks like there's also, this is from some Twitter site that may or may not be on some shelves that are not here, but apparently there's MODOK, Ant-Man, Wasp, and a Kang figure, or at least the back of the box picture of Kang and not an actual figure, as opposed to the rest of these. So yeah, that might be what the Kang figure looks like when it comes out. And now, folks, Marvel Snap announces their next season of the Power Cosmic. So this is the new season of Power Snap, the new card game, mobile card game that is out there that has some measure of popularity with some folks that even that I know that even don't like card stuff, which is kind of funny. But it's a fun game. You should check it out. I know Agent 70, if he were into the stuff, he would like the cap card, I think. But yeah, so the next season of the game, this current season is basically, I think, the Wakanda Forever season, where you can, if you bought the season pass, you can get a Black Panther card and boosters for other cards and other things on the battle pass. The Power Cosmic is going to feature a new shop. And also some new cards, including the Silver Surfer and a few other new locations and some other season of rewards. There is a video attached to this article that kind of goes into all of that. And if it's the video I'm thinking about, is a very excited Ben Brode, but then again, that's just Ben Brode, who is the head of Second Dinner, the developers of the card game. Marvel Snap nerfs several popular cards also. Angela, Destroyer, Mysterio, and Sarah, because yes, I can safely say that a couple of those cards I've had experience in playing that game will mess you up or are pretty much OP. So they've all had their power levels reduced. This is not not an outside of realm of possibility. I mean, of the things that happen in card games. So Agent 70 is like, oh, come on. So that the kind of thing happens, and this is no surprise, but hopefully they will change the meta if you're into that situation. Because yeah, some of that stuff's kind of bad. WizKids introduces new hero Kliqs. Wait, actually, if this is it, then yeah, Agent 70 can come back in after this one. Actually, WizKids introduces new hero Kliqs Iconics miniatures. So this is basically a press release on the Marvel site from WizKids. Formally announces HeroClix Iconics, which is a new series of pre-painted miniatures designed to translate iconic moments and characters into collectibles that can fully integrate into the HeroClix miniatures game. If you're watching the video, you can see the one with from the X-Men animated series of Wolverine on the bed, looking at a picture of, I'm assuming, Morph from that. Although that's
no, it's supposed to be Jean.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. That's right.
And
no,
Scott.
Wait, because I thought. Yes, you're right. But I feel like he did have a picture of. Oh no, that's right. No, he had another picture of them, and he tore between the. Never. Yeah. But no, I think he did have another picture of Morph somewhere though. But yeah, you're right. Either way, it's that. A figure of that. You have a Spider-Man with the pointing fingers, which I guess if you can get two of, to do the whole meme thing, and some Iron Man figures, including what looks to be, is that a Hulkbuster? I don't know what that one is in the middle, but it looks like a Hulkbuster as Nimrod or something. That's kind of funny. Regardless.
Wait, which one?
The one, if you're looking at the thing, the one that looks like a Hulkbuster, but kind of, but also
on the left.
No,
like
the one
second from the left.
The one in the middle.
Oh no, that's a Hulkbuster. It's just it kind of looks like a Mandroid.
Right.
But yeah, that's a Hulkbuster.
Yeah. So
like a comic style Hulkbuster.
Right. So but yeah, so there are those. The first release will roll out in spring 2023. if you're into hero clicks, and I'm pretty sure some folks are. Next up,
a new Marvel Funko Pop offers a first look at how MODOK will appear in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, shared on Twitter by.
I already did that one. Skip to.
Oh,
the
you
Marvels.
did? That's what I thought. I heard.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, wait a second. Why is this all the way down here?
No. The Marvels.
I see it.
Yeah.
I know, but my point is, like, you have it all the way down here, and I'm like, wait a second. I thought you read this one already.
Wait, do
I?
I look.
Did you move it, and I just need to click refresh on my sheet?
I don't know. Oh yeah,
Line 4.
No, I think I did move it. So yeah, okay. No, you're good. Keep going. Marvels.
I just hadn't refreshed my sheet.
No, you're good.
The Marvels merch debuts Monica Rambeau's first proper superhero costume. The first merchandise for the Marvels has revealed Monica Rambeau's comic-inspired superhero suit. Where is my superhero suit? A Marvel Cinematic Universe fan recently shared an image on Reddit from Instagram user PortalGeek of the Marvels-themed pillow that shows Monica Rambeau, played by Tiana Paris, decked out in an official supersuit that is reminiscent of the one that she wears in the comics as Spectrum. The pillow also offers fans a new look at Brie Larson and Iman Vellani's new costumes in the Marvels. Okay.
So if that's the pillow, that I don't know, maybe it's just me. That doesn't look like Iman Vellani.
I'm pulling it up now.
But yeah, the suit that the suit that Monica Rambeau has on is kind of also reminiscent of what we saw her in at the end of, or at least
yeah, it kind of doesn't look like her.
Yeah. Avengers.
Oh God.
Anyway, Marvel fans can buy Peter Parker's shirt from the 90s Spider-Man animated series. I saw this was funny. The Disney store describes the Spider-Man polo as 100% cotton long sleeves brushed heavy jersey with 3-button placket, woven Marvel logo tag on the side, and embroidered Spider-Man face patch on the chest. It could have done without the chest, without the logo on the chest, but I see what they were going for there. But yeah, it is basically a replica of Peter's shirt from the 90s Spider-Man show, which that's pretty funny. It says here that it's $50 for it if you are so inclined. Next up.
The private comic collection of Spider-Man co-creator Steve Ditko is being auctioned off. PBA Comics, a division of PBA Galleries, has announced its, quote, the Spidey sale, unquote, auction being held on December 8th, next week, featuring Ditko's personal comics that have never been publicly sold before. The collection includes some high-value issues for Spider-Man fans and collectors, such as the character's first comic appearance and the debut issue of his solo title, The Amazing Spider-Man. Each book auctioned off comes with a certificate of authenticity signed by Ditko's brother, Patrick Ditko, and has been certified by the CGC as from the collection of Steve Ditko. Wow.
Right. So, yeah, that's I'm sure there will be a lot of interest in that.
Yeah, that and
yes. And speaking of the sad news of having to deal with that last sound effect, there's a GoFundMe launched for Peter David amid health problems. It says here that the friends and family of Peter David have launched a GoFundMe to help raise funds for ongoing medical costs. Over the weekend, a GoFundMe for David appeared online, revealing the legendary comic creator is undergoing health setbacks that put him in the hospital. According to the campaign's page, David suffered from a series of strokes and a mild heart attack amid existing kidney failure problems. Monday, his wife Kathleen wrote that David was being monitored at hospital to assess any further potential damage. And there is a link to updates and the funding page on this article in the show notes. So it's always sad news when we hear about stuff like this, and unfortunately, you wish comic creators had a more stable way to have medical funding. you know. But that is unfortunately how that is against the nature of the business.
Yeah, I don't know if he is of the right age to receive Medicare yet. That's the problem. You know, I think he is, but at the end of the day, Medicare doesn't cover everything. It only covers 80%.
I was about to say, and it might be, and depending on how long this has been going on, you know, has he been, if he's already on it, it was already on Medicare, it'd be another thing also. But if he wasn't on Medicare before this, they definitely, you know, would probably not cover.
Well, it all depends. Like I said, it all depends on how old he is.
That's what I'm saying. So, so I'm in agreement with you. I guess.
But ultimately, it sucks because our healthcare system in the United States is very broken, folks.
Yeah, it is. Actually, he is 66 years old. So
right. So even with Medicare, there's out-of-pocket expenses. Like I said, that's the 20% that's not covered.
Right.
And if he's making too much for Medicaid, which is likely, then he, depending on what state he lives in, then at the end of the day, he's going to have to foot a lot of that bill, if the insurance won't cover it.
Right. It's a whole mess. The U.S. is, like Agent 7 said, the U.S. is a medical, it's an industry. It's all fucked up. Anyway.
Yep. Next up, waiting for this article to load. Sorry. John Ridley's Black Panther teams with Namor to fight the Avengers. These two bitter rivals are about to join forces within the pages of John Ridley's Black Panther in the upcoming issue number 13 of Black Panther. Let's see. T'Challa ends up doing battle with Earth's mightiest heroes themselves, and the issue's original solicitations teased an unexpected ally arriving to fight at T'Challa's side. Marvel has now released artist Miguel Mercado's spoiler variant cover for Black Panther number 13, as well as an extended synopsis revealing that said ally is none other than Namor the Submariner. Or, the way everyone wants to pronounce things differently now, Namor the Submariner.
Oh, the Submariner thing has been forever. You know that. But yeah, that's always been, that one's always been ridiculous.
But my goodness.
Let me go ahead and tell you why I don't like this. And that is apparent, that would be easily apparent if you have been with this show for any length of time. Once upon a time, back right before Secret Wars, Hickman's Secret Wars, these two were pretty much bitter enemies for several reasons, concluding in the fact that basically T'Challa did I did this to you to Namor.
Well, it started with AVX.
It did start with AVX, yes, but
right. It started with AVX, but the rivalry was building even before that. Right. But then it built to a crescendo in Secret Wars.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It was pretty much going from,
in the lead up to Secret Wars.
Right, right. So the fact that, and I'm sure there's, as far as I know, there's still some animosity there, giving that may. I'm trying to remember, has they had any screen time in the Avengers? Not screen time. Any panel time in the Avengers?
In Aaron's Avengers?
Yeah. I felt like they did.
Definitely.
But
they have not poo-pooed it. Let's just say they have not come to blows, but they have not poo-pooed it.
There's still some things there, lingering things there. So the fact that this is happening, which I'm sure that it's a possibly a begrudging team up or alliance, but still, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So, but I'm still read it. So we'll see what happens. Also, I feel like there's some not quite, but slight MCUification going on.
Yeah.
And that's the other reason why I don't like it. So, anyway, next up. Marvel officially names the richest character in the entire multiverse. That's Norman Osborn. Let's move on. And this is apparently a spoiler for Avengers Forever number 11.
Yep.
So next up.
Right. So this is a preview for this week's Avengers Assemble Alpha number one shot. And at the end of the day, this preview has, the groups of Avengers that are coming together to fight the multiversal Masters of Evil.
I meant to take that one out since you were talking about it, but so it is what it is. Hey, previews still are going to be in the show notes if you're interested in reading that. But next up, Marvel announces the Hellcat series. So Patsy Walker is headlining a new Hellcat Marvel series, of which we have just recently seen her in Christopher Cantwell's Iron Man run, who was being proposed to by Tony Stark, which he, as far as we know, didn't take. Which I guess is the second time in Marvel history that such a thing has happened. Except, well, actually, no, because they were actually getting married. I was thinking of Kitty Pryde and Colossus. But they were actually getting married, and she was like, nope. So they didn't even get that far with this one. Regardless, it says here that just because they never walked down the matrimony aisle doesn't mean that Cantwell doesn't have more Hellcat stories to tell. The writer will team up with artist Alex Lenz of New Mutants, Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood for a 5-issue Hellcat miniseries that finds Patsy Walker framed for murder, in which she in turn must investigate to clear her name. I was kind of wondering if it had anything to do with that annual, because we know when the last saw her from that annual, like she was still kind of dealing with some stuff in San Francisco, but I guess not. But this article also mentions said annual with that. So look forward to that. Does it have a date? Yes, March 15th, 2023. And there's a cover for folks. Next up.
Last but not least, in celebration of a diamond anniversary for Doctor Who, Big Finish marks 60 years of Doctor Who with a mammoth 8-part full cast audio drama series beginning in May 2023. So let's see here. It's going to be titled Doctor Who Once and Future and stars Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, Christopher Eccleston, and David Tennant, with dozens more guest casts still to be revealed. The series will be released monthly, with the first 7 parts materializing between May and October 2023, and a final coda episode in November 2024. Wow, a year later.
That's cool, and that's a lot of doctors they have lined up. All of those names are former doctors. Well,
okay, I was gonna say I didn't recognize most of them until I got to Eccleston
right.
and Tennant.
And I think, yeah. And Tennant is actually the current doctor at the moment until next year. So that's also, sure. But yeah, that's cool. I've never checked out any of those, but I might want to check out some of those. And that, folks.
All right, but you have to pay. I was gonna say you have to pay for this. Right, you can pay for the download.
Yeah, and this in British bucks, but I'm sure there's a way to you can.
I'm sure there's an easy conversion out there.
I'm sure the site already has that taken care of. So because they know, they know the Whovians are rabid, and not just British. So exactly. And that, folks, is the end of the news section. We got one last ad read.
Our last ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron. Always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today.
I have the Chainsaw Man opening theme in my head and I can't get it out. All right, folks, that is the end of the show. This was a good long one because of a lot of things, but that trailer news was.
Yeah, I was gonna say that trailer news dropped today, so we had to talk about it.
Absolutely. So you were not want for content. And with that, folks, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdSneed on Twitter. You can find and Hive on at Roddykat, by the way. I guess that's still a thing. And CB Caps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and PopCultureNetwork.com and all of the umbrella sites therein. And Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account, The Kliq Nation on Twitter, that's TheKliqNation, and thekliqnation.com. But also you can find him over at comicbook.com, where he's writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network, that's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Oh, I forgot. Comic Book Chronicles is also on Hive at Comic Book Chron. I forgot to mention that earlier. So you can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and give us all the 5-star reviews.
And you can also find this recording every Thursday night, normally 9:30-ish Eastern Standard Time, on the YouTube. Wow, I had a mess up. Oof, excuse me. YouTube.com/TheKliqNation and Twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and make sure to hit the notification button so you know when we are online.
And speaking of Twitch, actually, before we go, Marvel's Midnight Suns video game is coming out. Actually, technically, in places, it's already out as of this recording. If you're getting this after the fact, obviously, it will be out. It releases the December the 2nd. So by the time you hear this, or if you're here live, I will possibly be streaming the game on Twitch after it releases, possibly either Friday and or Saturday, depending on when I can get it downloaded and set up. So if you are watching the video version and want to see that and hear good things about it, you can come check that out. You can definitely check it out after fact because the file will be up. But yeah, you watch me play a video game terribly, but we'll have some fun. Twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. But some of you already know that because you're here. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
My time is up. Peace out to Brooklyn.